What is going on, guys? Thank you so very much for joining us on Tuesday nights. It is Tuesday Night Titans, episode number 71 for your Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. I am your host, JD from New York. As always, joined by my very good friend and the man who predicted the Yankees would lose in 6 games. 6 games, me 7 games. And we are both completely wrong. Solid Monster. Jason, what's going on, brother?
I did say they would lose, okay? So let's not make it seem like I said they were going to win. Okay? I said they were going to lose.
I don't even know what fucking... Listen, man, I'm ridiculously shocked that we are looking at a situation where they get swept in the World Series, man. I did not, and I'm sure you thought the same thing coming on into this, that they were not going to play this badly.
No, it's actually, it's amazing that they're playing as badly as they are. But I was telling you before we went live, look, it just comes down to the simple fact that the Dodgers are the better team. They were better than us. You can sit here and admit that. And they're better, much better than the Yankees. We were better than the Yankees are playing now. But the Dodgers, it's just their time, man. It's their season. And look, how can you not root for someone like Freddie Freeman?
You don't got to tell me twice about Freddie Freeman. I know what the guy's capable of.
I know. I'm just saying, how can you not root for somebody like that?
I don't know. He's a good guy. Mike Rouse in the chat says, Issa said 7. I don't want to be Issa right now.
Yeah, she's probably not too happy.
She got Roman Reigns back, though, man. It can't be all that bad. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to get into tonight. Thank you for joining us on episode 71. We have this new WWE ID program that is making the rounds on social media, and everybody has something to say about it. And for the time that we have tonight, I have concocted some really, really good questions for Jason and I to go back and forth on, and I think it's going to be a very good discussion. So we will definitely get into that. We got Crown Jewel this weekend. We have 7 matches, supposedly. I don't know yet until we actually get through SmackDown because some of them are not announced yet. But we could be looking at a 7.
Well, they've been announced. No. They've been announced. They apparently it's up right now.
That spoiler match has been announced?
It's up on WWE.com if you click on the Crown Jewel page. Because I had people telling me last night that apparently Roman Reigns in his IG stories said something about it. And now it's up on the official preview for Crown Jewel. It's right there at the very top.
Well, I do my best to stay away from the spoilers, but I'm glad that the match is taking place. We got a really substantial card on Saturday afternoon, so Jason and I will definitely go over that and give you our preview and predictions for Crown Jewel this Saturday, whether you like that show or not. It does have some storyline implications that will bleed into Survivor Series. We got Samantha Irvin. We got a follow-up on why she really left the WWE and why everybody on social media is a bizarre weirdo who just can't let shit go and can't be happy for people who just genuinely want to be happy. So we will definitely go over that. And we have major WrestleMania news. Cody is teasing that there's going to be some unexpected plans, and The Rock is a priority, or making the WWE, I should say, a priority for WrestleMania. So we will definitely get into all that stuff. We got a loaded show.
Yeah, but Dave said he wasn't. Dave said he wasn't going to be there.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know. Dave Meltzer getting one correct again, huh? Tough to be Dave Meltzer in 2020. Listen, man.
I hate to see it.
I don't know, man.
I hate to see it.
We'll definitely get into all that for sure. Quickly, guys, there is a new option. I'm not sure Jason knows this. There is a new option in the live stream chats now where you can set goals for everybody that is watching us live tonight. So you can go to the top, and there's a little bullseye icon. And right now, you'll see 1 of 20. If we can get 20 orange super chats, I will sit down later this week, and I'll conduct a very special Q&A for members only. So if you guys want to get in on that fun, it is there. So make sure you guys go and do that. YouTube's always adding some little fun things here and there for us content creators to get excited about. So if you guys want to click on that and take part in that, it is there. Super chats are open. It's a great way to support the show. And all the social media stuff, YouTube, you guys know where to find us. Everything you need for Jason's channel and his social media is linked down below, mine as well. And there's Joey Clemenza coming on in, Tone C coming on in. There you go, man. So I appreciate you guys very, very much. Jason, where do you want to start, brother? Let's get into
Why
this.
don't we talk about Samantha Irvin, because we did touch on this last week. So if you want to get into, because there were some more developments after we talked about this story on TNT last week. So I think you can elaborate a little bit more on this.
Yeah, Samantha Irvin revealed that she did not quit WWE for any other reason than I don't like announcing. That's it. She didn't leave because Ricochet said, you know, honey, let's get you out of there, man. I think Tony wants to pay you triple, and he wants you to be the ring announcer over here. No, it didn't go down like that. Ricochet has nothing to do with it. Samantha left because she did not like announcing. Now, she says, and I quote, I don't like announcing. She said in the comments on her Instagram post announcing her resignation, I'm serious. Announcing was only supposed to be my way in. I wanted to manage, maybe even become general manager one day, but WWE saw no other future for me besides announcer. I love watching the action, but I don't love being an announcer. Now, Irvin's comments were a rebuke to the popular social media narrative that Ricochet influenced Irvin to leave after he himself departed the company and signed with AEW over the summer, wrapping up a 6-year WWE run. In addition to explaining why she quit, Irvin said WWE wanted Rico to stay in the big leagues after someone said that Ricochet left the big leagues to go to the minor leagues, which was completely up to him. He left on his own accord. He didn't want to come back, so that's that narrative. I don't know why everyone is pretending like he was always in great positions at WWE. She also responded to another comment blaming her untalented husband for her departure, snapping back, saying, my husband is a millionaire, so yes, I don't have to do a job I don't like anymore. I love wrestling, and that is what shone through. Irvin wrote other comments on her Instagram post expressing appreciation for her fans and the job she performed to the best of her abilities for over 4 years. She also reinforced her love for the industry in response to a fan who suggested that WWE had held her back. I love wrestling, and that is what shone through. She suggested that she wanted to kill it so hard that they would want to move me somewhere else. And that is basically the gist of why Samantha Irvin left. She said, I'm not going to AEW. I will probably just go back to stage performing, acting, singing, and when I'm ready to get back to work, this was a dream, and I'm super proud of it. End quote. Jason, there was, let me see if I can find it on my phone. I know you and I discussed her status in the company in regards to where she stands as all-time ring announcers in WWE. I know you and I said the Fink is number one, and nobody will ever come close to the Fink. She is definitely, in my opinion, and I know you said it as well, number two. There were people that were legitimately just going at her and just upset to a point where you would think that these people lost a family member as to why this woman left the company. Now, you know, I know a lot of people who watch me know my humble beginnings. I used to work at Starbucks. I hated it, but I did it because I had to make ends meet. I worked 16-hour shifts often. Then I moved to selling watches and retail, and I moved back to New York City after living in Atlantic City, and I transferred jobs selling watches in Atlantic City to Madison Avenue in New York City. I hated it. And then after I left there, I went to go do that at a smaller, more privately owned shop. And one day, Jason, I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I quit. And I went to go start my YouTube channel, and I don't look back, and I never regretted it. It was probably the best decision I ever made to do this shit full time. She wanted to do something else, and she was great at what she did. She left, and she was unhappy doing what she did. Nowhere in the transcript or the contract did it state, you have to stay here, and you have to stay here with us. If she didn't like it, if you don't like it, fucking quit and go do something else, and let's be happy for people who actually have the balls to do that. I know I did it with Mercedes and Naomi Trinity when they left WWE, how difficult of a decision that was. When you don't want to do something, you don't have to do that certain something. You get up and leave, and I respect her for doing that.
Nobody needs to be tied down to a job that they're going to be miserable at. Now, she fooled me because, I mean, you would watch her on television and you would listen to her, and you would even have camera setups sometimes where they would show you her reaction when there was like a big angle or a big move, and she would react like a fan because she is a fan. She's been a wrestling fan since she was a kid. She's talked about how her father was a fan. She grew up watching Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels when they were on top. So she's always loved wrestling. But I don't think enough people know that she was recruited into it. When she was recruited into it, she wanted to be a wrestler, and it didn't work out. And so the role they had for her was ring announcer. And I mean, I'm sure the minute they heard her voice, they probably figured, like most of us would have, like, she's a natural at it. And so it was the right role for her. I had no idea that she didn't want to be an announcer, which makes it even more amazing that I sat here last week and I told you, and I meant what I said, when I said that I would probably have her rank behind the Fink on my list of like top ring announcers in WWE. And the fact that she didn't even want to do it, like that wasn't even something she had a passion for, is pretty amazing. And, you know, on my show, I talked about the fact also that the social media feedback was embarrassing. It's just one of those things. And unfortunately, I feel like we've had a lot of instances of this year alone where I'm embarrassed to be a fan based on the reaction I was seeing from other fans. They just take it so far over the top. They immediately jump to conclusions. This is Ricochet's fault. He coerced you into this. That's why Ricochet came out with that tweet and said, you know, look, don't worry about it. She's not going to AEW. And that didn't work because people thought he was lying. And they still came at him. And that's the only reason I think why we even heard from her. I don't think she would have said any of this if it wasn't for all of the negative feedback that she was getting probably, but also her fiance was getting. So she just got to a point where she was like, you know what, the hell with this. I'm going to fight back. And I say good for her, because I can just imagine some of the shit that she was seeing that maybe we're not aware of. So the reaction was completely over the top. My perspective on this, and I think I said this last week, the initial reports had to do with her wanting to do outside projects.
Yes.
And I think it was Meltzer, funny enough, who put the report out that said that conversations or negotiations between them broke down. They couldn't come to an agreement or an understanding. And she came out and said, look, I have no outside projects at the moment. I just wanted to do more. I wanted to do basically anything other than ring announcing. And she talked about managing. She talked about being a general manager. And she said she thought she would be really good at it. And she thought she could contribute in other ways. And it just was not meant to be. It backfired on her. And she gave them plenty of advance notice. She didn't walk out, you know, last Monday and put them in a bind. Obviously, they had Lily in there, so this was known in advance. But I said at the time, when it looked like it was a case where they couldn't come to some kind of an understanding about her having time to do outside projects, I said, how do you let somebody like that go? You work something out. If that means that she's on Raw a little bit less because she has a gig here, a gig there, then you do what you need to do to hold on to somebody like that. This is very different, though. This is just a case where WWE and Samantha Irvin had two completely different ideas about how best to use her. She wanted to do X, they wanted her to do Y. They have a lot of talent as it is. They have in-ring talent, they have managers, they have people filling all the GM roles. I've said if Nick Aldis ever gets bounced out of that SmackDown GM role or wants to start wrestling, you got William Regal right there. I mean, he would fit like a glove. They didn't have an open spot for her. I don't look at this as blame WWE. WWE is not to blame for this. Samantha Irvin is not to blame for this. This was a simple business impasse that they came to, where they had different ideas for what she wanted to do. And she was within her rights, because I think she's an employee. She's not under the same talent agreement that everybody else is, to say, you know what, I'm going to leave. I'm not happy here anymore, and so I'm going to go do something else. But I don't look at it as, oh, you know, this is WWE's fault. They did not have that same vision. They did not share the same vision that she had. And it's just a simple business disagreement. I don't think you need to beat up on one side or the other. But again, the hate for her and Ricochet was just embarrassing. And there's so many weirdos out there making all kinds of just ridiculous comments. I'll sum it up the way I did on my show. Grow the fuck up. Comes right down to that. Act like adults. Grow up. This happens in business. This is not a big deal. Nobody got screwed. If she's not happy, she'll go and be happy somewhere else. And if that means one day that she ends up in AEW, because I could see her ending up there one day doing something, whether she signs a contract or a one-off. I'm not saying it's impossible. But even before all of this came out, I didn't think she was going. I believed Ricochet. I said, okay, she's not going to AEW. Some people are still convinced she's going to pop up there in the next few weeks. I don't think she will. But you know what? Even if she did, who cares? Grow up.
As long as she's happy, who gives a shit when she shows up?
Grow up.
I don't. Yeah, that's asking a lot of the people that dwell on social media nowadays.
I mean, I can move mountains a lot easier than it would be for to see that. But I know. But I mean, come on, grow up. There's more important things to argue about. She
definitely made lifelong memories in just 4 years. She was a part of probably the most important WrestleMania that the company's ever had. It was truly an amazing 4 years for that woman, and if she wants to go and do whatever she wants to do, I just hope that she's happy doing it. We should all hope that anybody doing whatever they're doing is happy doing it. I hear from a lot of people that I don't know personally that hate what they do. I have people close to me that quit jobs and quit because they hated being disrespected and hated working with the people that they worked with, so they got up and quit and found a new job. That's as simple as that, folks.
Look,
I'm sure you are in that same boat, everybody, and you went through that at least once in your life. So why are we giving this woman such a hard time?
I think most people probably went through it. They're probably going through it right now in some cases. Yeah. I would argue there are people in WWE right now or AEW who are probably miserable.
Absolutely.
But they take the paycheck and they say, okay, I don't want to rock the boat, or maybe my opportunity will come. But I guarantee you there are people in both companies who are not happy doing what they're doing or in the position that they're in. And in her case, she had the power to say, you know what? Like she said in one of her responses on social media, yeah, you know what? My fiance is a millionaire, so if I don't want to work, I don't have to. Or if I want to quit my job and then take time to figure out, okay, what's my next move? I can do that. I can understand it if some people are financially dependent on that position and they can't. They don't have the freedom to just go, you know what? I quit without having something else lined up. There are people in the world and there are people in wrestling who probably fit that criteria too. Clearly, she's not one of those people. So why would she stick around doing a job that she is not happy doing? Especially when she has to go on there. Like, it's one thing to wake up in the morning and go drive to work. But when you're a WWE star or an AEW star, there's a lot of travel involved. And I don't care if she's only flying around once a week for Raw, if that's all it was. That's a lot, to travel all over the country, all over the world for a job that you don't even want to be doing what they have you doing. Why? Nobody should have to feel obligated to do that unless they are financially dependent on it. So good for her.
Good for her. She was there for 4 years. She wanted to be a pro wrestler, correct? She wanted to be a pro wrestler manager. She cited Paul Heyman as an influence. Vince McMahon gave her the role, if I'm not mistaken, as announcer. Is that what happened?
I don't know if Vince was the one who gave her the role, but she mentioned Heyman as her inspiration, and she pointed out to somebody because they said, well, then why stay if you weren't happy in that position? Or why accept it? Why take it in the first place? And she said it was like Heyman. Heyman, when he started out, he was a photographer. That was his foot in the door, right? Sometimes in wrestling, you have to take a position that maybe you don't see yourself in 5 or 10 years down the road, but that's your big break, right? That's your opportunity. Shit, that's my foot in the door. I could be a photographer. I could be a referee.
It's like some of these guys playing a security guard week in and week out. That's their foot in the door.
Yeah, the security geeks that get beat up every single week and are made to look like the dumbest people on the face of the earth. Why do they do it? Because they get their foot in the door, and maybe if they take a good bump or something, maybe somebody sees something in them, and who knows, right, what it might lead to. I think there's plenty of people who probably end up being referees who aspire to be wrestlers, but maybe the only role for them initially is being a referee. Okay, they'll be the best damn referee they can be. It doesn't mean that that's where they see themselves 10 years from now. And that's why she said yes. I think most people probably would have said yes if WWE said, hey, we have a role for you that's going to give you a ton of visibility on TV. What do you say? How many people do you think are going to say no to that?
Everybody's going to say yes to that. I know I would.
Exactly. Of course.
Speaking of Vince, I did mention Vince. There was news on Vince today. Laughable news, but Vince news anyway. Vince McMahon plans to launch a new entertainment company. Good luck with that, brother. Vince McMahon is working on setting up a new company. McMahon resigned. Obviously, you guys know the whole details of what happened there. I'm not going to get into that. But PW Insider reports today that McMahon has been in the process of setting up what has been described as a new entertainment hub company, which would financially back, develop, and produce film and television productions. It's believed that there are no plans to launch anything similar to WWE as they focus on fiction and nonfiction projects. Several WWE alum are already working with McMahon to prepare the company. The idea is to unveil it once his legal issues are resolved. The company is expected to be based in the LA area, And for those wondering, Kevin Dunn has not been involved in this new venture at all, which is quite surprising to me personally. Brad Blum, WWE's former chief operating officer, is working on the project after starting in WWE in 2006 before departing after McMahon's first retirement. In the wake of the Wall Street Journal articles, once McMahon returned to WWE, Blum followed but resigned in May 2024. Kristen Prouty, who was WWE's liaison to the Hollywood world, is also on board. She joined WWE in 2005 after being the original casting director for the initial Divas search. WWE let her go earlier this year. Jason, how is Vince planning on doing this? Obviously, even after everything in his hopes gets settled, what type of reputation is Vince going to have after this to a point where he thinks he's going to launch a new entertainment company with any support or backing whatsoever? Is he losing his mind?
Oh, I mean, he lost his mind a long time ago. I don't know why you think he just lost it recently. The thing with him is he's got so much money. I mean, think of all the stock he cashed out. He's got billions and billions of dollars banked. And you're talking about the entertainment industry. There's a lot of really scummy people in the entertainment industry. So I think if he's going to throw his money around, yeah, I mean, he'll find projects to get behind. And it's not a case where nobody is going to want to work with him. But there's a lot of people who I'm sure are not going to want to work with him. I look at it just as a simple case of every single time that Vince McMahon has tried something, some sort of business endeavor outside of wrestling, he has failed. So why would we think that this would be any different? Right? He started a bodybuilding federation, it failed. He started a supplement, it failed. He started a football league the first time, it failed. He opened a restaurant in Times Square, it failed. He bought a casino that they were going to turn into a WWE casino, and that didn't work. So you can go up and down the list, and that's to say nothing of his early failures before he really hit it big when he was promoting other events. So he doesn't have a very good track record outside of wrestling because it's all he's done. I mean, think about this, okay? In many ways, he spent a good chunk of his career running away from the wrestling label. It was almost like he wanted to do anything but. People would joke like one day the ring is going to be gone. He's gonna still have Raw, but there's not going to be a ring anymore. It's just going to be skits and promos. Wrestling was a dirty word to him. So for a guy who looked like he always wanted to be in the entertainment business, but wasn't really thrilled about the wrestling part, now he's going to get his wish. He gets to be in the entertainment industry doing stuff other than wrestling. Do I think it's going to work? No, I don't. And it's not like I'm going to sit here and say I wish him back. I wish him all the luck in the world. I hope he has great success. No, I really don't. I really can't bring myself to care, honestly, about anything that he would do. But anybody worried about him jumping back in the wrestling business, I think hasn't really been paying attention. I really just don't think he's interested in doing wrestling. Not that he wouldn't be in WWE still if he wasn't pushed out. But I think he's just, as long as he's doing something in the entertainment world, I think that's probably all he needs. He needs something to occupy his time. He is a workaholic. I can't picture him sitting in the rocking chair for the rest of his days. I'm not surprised that he wants to jump back into something, but his track record would dictate that this probably will not be a roaring success.
I was about to say, why doesn't he just go on some nice excursion overseas somewhere and kick his feet up, overlooking some beautiful crystal blue water at some Italian villa somewhere, drinking some espresso? Why doesn't he just do that?
Oh, I would love for him to go on excursion. You're not going to get an argument out of me, preferably as far away as possible, so I don't have to hear about him anymore.
Yeah, that was in the news today. I don't wish Vince McMahon the best of luck on anything. Hopefully, whenever this thing does come to an end with Janelle Grant, I hope he suffers the worst fate possible. So that's just my personal opinion there.
Well, it's not just the Janelle Grant lawsuit that he has against him.
Yes, I heard the
last week.
Yeah, the Ring Boy stuff. I was listening to your video that you put on YouTube about it because I know you talked about it on the podcast. I was one of those people that did not know about that previously. I heard about it, but I didn't really do too much investigative work on my end to go and research it. But when I watched the docuseries, it was the first full-time, full-blown situation where I actually heard about it in full and came into more about that story. I didn't know about that before that. So I'm like, I don't know, man. That's when you're dealing with the topic of that story, that's pretty rough. And TKO is going to be suffering the ramifications from that. And like you said, they weren't even fucking around during that time period. So it's like, You know, what do you got to do? You got to deal with Vince McMahon's ex's bullshit, and it had nothing to do with it.
Well, you know what, though? Remember when the whole deal went down and there were, like, you know, SEC documents? And there would be fine print in there where, you know, Endeavor would acknowledge that Vince McMahon was a liability or like a potential. And I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Was that shit in capital letters?
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, they made the choice to, you know, bring him aboard. And so it didn't take very long for that to blow up in their face. I have no sympathy for them either. But yeah, I feel like for all the people who know about the Ring Boy scandal, there's way more people who don't because it was so long ago. And a lot of the key players aren't around anymore. You know, a lot of the key players are gone. You know, they're dead. Pat Patterson, Terry Garvin, Mel Phillips, Tom Cole, who was one of the Ring Boys who made accusations. He actually committed suicide not long after Pat Patterson died. And when you really get into the details of it, I mean, it really is the most egregious scandal, you know, of all the different scandals and all the awful things in the history of that company, how a blind eye was turned to all that stuff. And I do think he gets a pass from a lot of people who simply do not know about it, or they don't know the extent to which this was going on his watch. And, you know, he would plead ignorance, but at the end of the day, it was still happening on his watch. And for Mel Phillips, who is no longer with us, Mel Phillips passed away in 2012. I will say rest in piss to Mel Phillips.
Yes, terrible human beings. And like you said, if you knew of a situation that was going on like that and you didn't say anything, even though you might have not actively been involved, you're just as guilty as the rest of them. Because wasn't Mel Phillips fired and then brought back under some pretenses?
Mel Phillips, we won't spend too much time on this, but Mel Phillips was a ring announcer primarily for live events. So you didn't see him too much on TV, although you can find footage of him. But he was one of their ring announcers, and he was also the head of the ring crew. And he had a foot fetish, and he had an affinity, evidently, for underage boys. And he was the one responsible in many of these cities for bringing in and hiring the ring boys, and they would help set up the ring and do other tasks. And there were a lot of accusations levied against him, you know, back then, and things that were supposedly going on. They got rid of him. The company did get rid of him. I think there was some pressure. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but they got rid of him. And then it was maybe 6 weeks later, they rehired him. And they rehired him. And this is not like, I mean, this is something that was documented at the time. You know, Phil Mushnick is someone who's in that Vince McMahon documentary. And then, you know, in that ridiculous video on Piers Morgan's show last week that blew up, him and don't call me bro. Remember that went around on social media? Don't call me bro. Him and Russo. But I think it was him who wrote about it, or some writer at the time quoted Vince as saying, yeah, we brought him back, but with the understanding that he stay away from kids. So yeah, they brought him back and said, basically, you got to stay away from kids. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a great deterrent.
That's ridiculous.
This is what happened. Now, can you imagine something like that happening today?
We know you did something wrong and you were inappropriately touching minors, but please don't do it again. Like, really?
Yeah, promise me you won't do it again now. All right, you can go back to work. Just promise me you won't do it again.
Man, I hope I hope Vince suffers the worst fate, man. I don't give a shit, man. So stupid, so ridiculous. Moving on, we got WrestleMania news. Rock and WrestleMania will obviously be a thing this year, even though Dave Meltzer said no to that happening. But there is news on Fightful Select. Now, obviously, you guys know Rock appeared at Bad Blood, and it left many wondering what exactly the WrestleMania plans are, because he left the 3 fingers in the air and did the throat slash. We don't know what that means. We haven't seen The Rock since. We are hoping that we get some sort of answer, potentially maybe at Survivor Series. We'll see what happens. But Rock spoke on rumors that he wasn't going to be at WrestleMania 41 by saying, don't listen to that bullshit on Instagram. At least sources within WWE claim that the company is a priority for The Rock, and he's expected in the fold here and there in sporadic fashion. Of course he is. Higher-ups that Fightful spoke to said The Rock has made it clear he's a part of the family and will appear when he is able. Sources at the Intuit Dome told Fightful that they were hopeful The Rock would be present for the first Raw on Netflix, and there's buzz internally for it, even though it's not confirmed. I think Jason and I are pretty confident he will be there on January 6th. In regards to rumors that The Rock said he wouldn't be working WrestleMania and asking around, none of our WWE sources knew where that came from. those we spoke to said they had not heard either way of him appearing. Now, one WWE source told Fightful that it's hard to predict what The Rock is going to do 6 months out because he's going to do pretty well what he wants from a career and appearance perspective. Another WWE producer said that if The Rock decides shortly before a show that he wants to appear, he will. Several others said that as of right now, they've not been given messaging that The Rock won't appear at WrestleMania. And as far as Bad Blood, we're told that this wasn't something that had a lot of heavy planning, but the possibility of him appearing became a reality in the weeks prior. This is what led up to the main event being Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes in the tag team match. A few days before the show, we're told that WWE got solid confirmation that The Rock would appear. So clearly, the one underlying tone here in that report from Fightful is that The Rock is going to do what The Rock is going to do. And if it's that wishy-washy and that last minute and he wants to do it fucking 24 hours before the show, then Rock is going to say, you know what? Hey, Paul, I'm coming in. We're making room for me. And that's the bottom line. So, Jason, according to Fightful's report, if that's the underlying tone here in the report, you can guarantee that that's going to be what's going to happen again this WrestleMania season. And we're going to be in for one hell of a ride again if we are going to start integrating Dwayne Johnson into the WrestleMania plans.
Yeah, well, I think this time it's safe to say that Cody is safe, at least, and that he'll be in the mix somehow. Whether it's a one-on-one match or not, we don't know. But again, none of this to me is anything we didn't already know. You know, Rock is going to be involved in WrestleMania in some way. Probably will wrestle. It could be a case where maybe he doesn't wrestle, but he's in another role. I just find it hard to believe he's not going to wrestle. So he'll be a part of the build, and he'll be a part of the show in some way. And we still don't know exactly what that, match would look like. Are we looking at Rock and Roman? Are we looking at Cody and Rock? Are we looking at a triple threat? We still don't know. And honestly, it's not even November yet. So I wouldn't expect WWE has that locked in. They probably have a sense of what they want to do and where they want to go until Rock lets them know, if he hasn't already, where his mind is at and what his schedule is going to be. I don't know that anything is locked in. Like you said, he could show up one day and everything can get blown up again.
I have a feeling he'll show up the day of the Royal Rumble and tell Triple H, hey, you know what, man, I want to be in the Rumble and I'm going to win the Rumble. And then Triple
I'm going
H,
to be number 31.
Yeah, even though Triple H has already got his winner, he's got a WrestleMania main event already played. I'm going to be in number 31. We're going to just change course.
Yeah, that'll be great. What underdog babyface were you planning on having win the Royal Rumble? So when they're at the very end and everybody thought they won, you hit my music, I come out at 31 and I dump them out over the top rope. That'll get heat.
Who's on the line sheet to win the Rumble? Phil Brooks? Nah, brother, that's not going to work for me. We're gonna ruin his ruin his fun here again. In how many times did that happen? 2-3 times now? Yeah, let's do it again.
3, I think. I believe. Yeah.
Ridiculous, man. You gotta love Rocky, but listen, man, low key, I'm excited to see what he brings to the table because there's just a different energy, and he will certainly be on that Monday Night Raw. Everybody's going to be on that Raw on Netflix debut. Cody.
Well, it sounds, before you get into Cody, though, it sounds like everybody from the old ECW is going to be on NXT next week based on all these reports that are coming out about.
Tony Khan's probably having a fucking stroke, man. He loves ECW.
Of course, he used to go to the ECW arena with his father. Tony Khan may be at NXT in the crowd next week.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Some kind of a disguise. He'll have like a mustache, like his dad does, or something. No, I mean they're announcing all of these old ECW names. Dawn Marie, Francine just announced that she's going to be there. I believe I saw something that RVD is going to be there. He might have been on NXT tonight. So yeah, they're really loading it up as far as ECW alumni are concerned. And we saw what happened at Halloween Havoc with Bully Ray, who was there. And not to say that Bully Ray showing up at the ECW arena does not make sense, or that it will not get a reaction. But when I saw Bully Ray on the NXT show Sunday night, I just laughed because I just thought to myself, somebody from WWE was watching Maple Leaf Pro. And of all the people and all the matches on that show, they said, the guy who we need on our show, Bully Ray, what a match he had with Jinder Mahal. We got to get that Bully Ray guy on our show. And then boom, there he is. He's on another show, and I'm sure he's going to be there next week. He'll probably be in a match.
I'm surprised. Well, the way that it left off, because I watched the show, I did not like the show outside the first 2 matches. I thought North American title match and the women's tag was really good stuff. Outside that, I don't know who asked for Ethan Page in the main event. You guys might like Ethan Page. I just don't see where he fits into the main event scene, which we will definitely discuss when we talk about the ID program. But I thought that they were going to book Bully Ray and Trick versus Ridge and Ethan Page for the show next week.
They could do that. It could be a tag match, or it could be a singles match. Tag match would make more sense. I don't really need to see Bully Ray in a singles match.
No.
I don't think that benefits anybody. I don't think that benefits Bully Ray. But this way, Bully is going to be over in the ECW arena. And so I think pairing him up with Trick would actually make a lot more sense. So yeah, I could see that. But they're going in hard on the ECW nostalgia. I'm looking forward to what the show looks like. When they were at the factory in St. Louis a few weeks ago, I love the look and the vibe of that show and that venue. I don't know if they ran wrestling in that venue before, but I hope they do more in the future. So what is this, modern day ECW arena going to look like with, the NXT setup? They could probably get about 1,000 people, maybe a little less. I'm looking forward to finding out, and it's going to be interesting also because we'll have another head-to-head next week between NXT and AEW, but this time on Tony's night.
Yeah, it will be on AEW night. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do as well. I've always been a fan of those themed shows, especially when it comes to that type of ECW vibe. But, I'm looking at the NXT brand, and I just don't feel a sense of, like, they really care to carve out their own identity on some weeks. Some weeks they do, some weeks they don't. Like, how does a show like next week play into any overall storyline progression? Like that's what I don't get. It's like we waited all night to watch Halloween Havoc, which I thought was an actual themed show on Tuesday nights. They turned it into a PLE. But how do we wait all night and then at the end of the show we get the payoff of Bully Ray and Ridge Holland? Like, if you're watching that and you were like us who watched the old Black and Gold and then you watch this current NXT, I know we should stop comparing because they're not one and the same. But it's like where did the PLE aspect for these NXT shows go? It's like that's it. That's what people are going crazy over. I'm like, this is very mid.
Again, I know you're a big fan of the Black and Gold, and I enjoyed it too. But we have to stop making these comparisons because the Black and Gold is dead and buried. It's not coming back. And if we just sit around and continue to make these comparisons, then nothing will ever please those who are looking for something along the lines of what the Black and Gold gave them. They obviously felt, okay, we have to move away from that and go in a different direction, and we're going to go that way. We're not going to look in the rear view. So we're not going to get that back. I'm not disagreeing with you as far as what they gave us on Sunday, but I think where it will, and we've seen them do a lot of this. We see them doing a lot of this every week, where this could be a benefit. Now, they're going to run this venue, and so they're going to factor in all the nostalgia, and they're going to try to drive the audience up as much as possible because they're not in their usual night. That's part of the play here. They're on an off night, so the audience is going to take a hit no matter what. But they want to do everything in their power to make the show feel as special as possible and bring in as much audience as they can on an off night. But if they use someone like a Bully Ray, or if they bring in an RVD, and they use these guys to give the rub to the NXT stars, I don't have an issue with it. So if they're going to do a tag match, or if there's going to be a segment, if RVD's not going to wrestle, he's going to be in a segment, he's going to put over somebody, one of the men on the roster. That's how you can utilize these guys in a positive way, to try to give some kind of rub to the younger NXT stars. Then, like a Javon Evans and Tony D and people like that, then I have no issue with it. So I don't really see it as being a big deal. We've seen them use main roster talent in that way. That's why Jey Uso showed up at that show in St. Louis a few weeks ago. He didn't do anything. He just showed up, but it was to get that visual of him in the ring with Trick.
Yeah.
Right? I think Lash and Jakara Jackson were in there. Jade and Bianca. So that I think is the way to go if you're going to bring these guys in. It can't just be, they come in, they cut a promo, and they knock out one of the heel talents and get themselves over, and that's it. It's got to be more than that. I'm sure that's what they have lined up for next week.
Is there another couple of shots of whiskey in that WWE cocktail, knowing that they're going head-to-head with AEW? That's why they're loading up their show next week?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's part of the play here. I mean, they're on an off night, and of course they want to kick AEW's ass. They don't want to... they kicked their ass that Tuesday, the last time they went head-to-head. And AEW was in an off night. They were not even in their usual time slot. They only overlapped for about an hour. So you put a little star next to it. Now, NXT's going to their night. do you think that AEW is going to mop the floor with them next Wednesday? I mean, I'm not saying that there's no chance that Dynamite might not bring in a larger audience. I think it's a very low chance. But I think there's also a much better chance that NXT is going to move in on their turf and probably outperform them. And there's always that competitive nature to things. And Tony Khan, too. You don't think he has a competitive edge and wants to beat them that night?
Of course
I'm sure
he
wears... Yeah, I'm sure it's a matter of pride for him. So if you get both companies to load up those shows, in the end, the fans win.
Get ready for Tomohiro Ishii next week.
Gonna get me going here.
My prediction, my bold prediction next week, ladies and gentlemen, 550,000 for AEW next week against NXT.
All right. I mean, that's not that far off from what I was thinking. I would go even lower.
Really?
You said 550?
550, yeah.
Okay. I think it'll be closer, like just under 500, like in the 500 range.
Uh-oh, man. They're going to start calling us grifters.
They can call us whatever the fuck they want. It doesn't faze me. You'll be calling me right.
These two guys on Tuesday night, man, they're haters. Okay. I love it.
Just telling it like it is. People don't like that.
Going back to Cody. Cody actually was speaking with Vegas Revealed in regards to WrestleMania. This ties in with the Rock story. Promoting the event, Rhodes was asked about the rumors going around for the WrestleMania main event. He actually said this, and I quote, "There are so many rumors circulating, it eats up the social feed. All the different rumors for what the matches might be. The hardest thing to do in WWE and sports entertainment and pro wrestling in general is not to win the WWE title. The hardest thing to do is main event WrestleMania. I don't care what the rumor is, as long as the rumor is I'm in the main event of the show. I'm good with it. What I can say for those who keep an eye on the rumor, I bet you what they get at WrestleMania 41 is unexpected even to them. Even the people who follow this, the diehards who feel like they have their finger on the pulse, this one is going to be tough. This one is going to be unexpected. That's the best way to put it, but in the best of ways," end quote. You know, we've actually got into offhand discussions here about WrestleMania and the main event. It could be Roman Rock. It could be Roman, Rock, and Cody. It could be Cody and Rock. Who knows, man? The unexpected thing may actually end up being the fact that they go with Randy and Cody at WrestleMania, which, I mean, I don't think anybody is going to complain about that if that's the direction. Then we get Rock and Roman. Seeing how they fast-tracked, and we both feel that the tie-in here to Survivor Series, how we got to War Games, is a little rushed. I won't be surprised if they actually go do Rock and Roman next year and we get Cody and Randy at WrestleMania next year. And that would be fucking one of the greatest double main events that WWE's probably ever done. So if that's the case, man, I'm all for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, Cody and Randy is something that a lot of people have been waiting for a long time, myself included. And I think, I don't even think, I know we're going to get it. It's just a matter of when. And I think, again, Rock's status potentially being up in the air right now as far as specifically who he'll be working with is the only thing that really kind of lords over the whole thing. But I'm sure, Triple H has already got the idea in his mind about where this Owens, Cody, Randy thing is going to go. Cody and Randy is going to come. I don't know if it'll be WrestleMania. To me, that's an easy WrestleMania match. Doesn't have to be there, but it should be. But if they have the chance to do Rock and Cody, if you're WWE, which match are you going with? You're going with Rock and Cody because that's the bigger marquee match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cody.
And don't forget, Cody worked both main events last year. Who knows? Maybe he works Randy one night and Rock the next. Who knows? I
mean, if Cody was given the option to do that, I'm sure he would say with a resounding yell, yes. He would definitely
go, whoa. He would go, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not his. Yeah, that's more like it. Not the other one. But he also did mention this. And I want your opinion on this. I kind of know where you're probably going to go with this one. But he did talk about his brother. And he was quoted saying, "Goldust is an underrated part of the Attitude Era, worthy of a Hall of Fame induction." He said about his brother, "I think I was 14 years old when Goldust was really hitting his stride on WWE television. And I can certainly say that it was a unique thing to see. My friends had a lot of feelings about what Goldust was doing. However, knowing how much he had subverted expectations, knowing how much he didn't want to be just a Rhodes, he wanted his own thing. And what he did in the links, he went to do it. the lengths rather, to do it. I was very proud of Dustin throughout the whole run, what he did, and the lengths he went to do it. Goldust was an underrated part of the Attitude Era, something that definitely is worthy of a Hall of Fame induction. I mean, that goes without saying, Jason. I think Goldust, the character, Dustin playing Goldust, is an absolute Hall of Fame induction. When I first saw Goldust, I didn't know what to think because I was such a young kid. It was just very off-putting to me. But obviously, the older I got, going back and watching what I didn't understand as a younger child, I grew to appreciate his work and what he did, the flamboyance, the body language, the move set that he had, the feuds that he had with, obviously the one that sticks out in my mind is with Razor, Scott Hall. Obviously, Hall of Fame induction. I love Goldust, and I think he is absolutely an underrated part of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, I mean, Goldust is one of the more well-known parts of the Attitude Era, and even pre-Attitude. When he debuted, it wasn't the Attitude Era yet. So his run as Goldust actually predates that. But the first time I saw Dustin Rhodes, he was still the natural. He was Dustin Rhodes. And then even when he joined WWF the first time, he was tagging with his dad. So I knew him even before the Goldust days. And then, yeah, Goldust was quite the shock. And Goldust went through a few different transformations. It wasn't just the initial character. If you remember the Attitude Era, he ended up with Luna Vachon. And there was some freaky stuff going on there with the two of them. Then he came back. He had another run as Goldust. Then years later is when he came back again as Goldust and had that tag team run with his brother. So you can find lots of different kind of eras of Goldust over the years. And you said that, he would go out there and the move sets and how impressive he was. Think about him now. How old is he now? And he's going out there doing destroyers. He's still wrestling every single week.
Mid-50s, easy.
Yeah, mid to late 50s. So it's even more impressive to see him still being able to go out there and do what he does. So yeah, I mean, Dustin Rhodes, either as himself or as Goldust or both, easy Hall of Famer. I don't think anybody would doubt that or dispute that for a second. And he will be in there one day.
Speaking of Hall of Fame, a lot of people made a big stink about AJ Styles hopefully getting into the TNA Hall of Fame.
Well, before you get into that,
yeah,
on the subject of the Hall of Fame, there is one other thing that it gives me hope. It gives me hope. Put a smile on my face when I read this. There was a news item. Demolition was doing a signing, a virtual signing. And they mentioned the fact that they were invited last year, before last year's WrestleMania, to come out to be a part of the festivities and be a part, not to be in the Hall of Fame, but kind of to attend the Hall of Fame and to attend WrestleMania, which is an invitation that had not been extended to them. But they said, probably had to do with Vince being gone and Triple H being in. And they would have loved to have gone, but they had already made a commitment, I think, with another promoter, and they had been paid, and they didn't want to break the commitment, so they didn't go. But their hope is that it's a good sign for the future that maybe relations have thawed between the two sides. So that gave me hope that maybe they will end up and take their rightful place in the Hall of Fame before it's too late. So the two of them can actually be inducted and give a speech of their own. I don't know if it'll be next year. If it were up to me, I'd put them in next year. I wouldn't wait any longer. But that gives me hope that we may end up getting that Demolition Hall of Fame induction. Because when I was growing up, they were my favorite tag team. Yeah, for me, it was them and it was the Hart Foundation. So Hall of Fame induction for them would be long overdue. And it looks like probably now more than ever, there's a good chance of it happening.
Well, it was such a feel-good moment this year when Triple H called the U.S. Express up, and it was like a Zoom call, and they were sitting down, and Triple H called them to let them know that they were in the Hall of Fame this year. I could see him doing that same thing with Demolition this year. I'd love to do that. I would love to see that, too, because they were a big part of my childhood as well. And the visual of them has remained with me now, going into me being 42 years old. It's like I go back and watch the old shit. I'm like, man, that fucking shit hit. It still hits now, even at this age. So, yeah, I hope that's the case as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and two men also, they didn't just play Axe and Smash. I mean, both men played multiple characters in their careers as singles. Bill Eadie and Barry Darsow, in and out of the WWE. So, yeah, it would be a well-deserved Hall of Fame induction. Hopefully we get it. I'm hoping next year, but hopefully it'll happen at some point soon.
Who could forget the Repo Man?
What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine too.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes. Love it. Remember Hole in One Darso from WCW?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Not one of his better gimmicks, but he had more serious gimmicks in the 80s, like before the silly stuff in the 90s. But I mean, part of a lot of people's, I'm sure, wrestling memories from their childhood.
So AJ Styles was in the news this week about possibly being inducted into the TNA Hall of Fame, and obviously he had a strong run there, more than strong run. He made his name there. He went to New Japan. He had a great career in WWE. Some fans obviously remember him still to this day for what he did with TNA. And Styles left TNA in 2014 before going to Ring of Honor and then later New Japan. He made his debut in 2016 on the main roster. And on Saturday, TNA had Bound for Glory, which we will discuss the main event here because I want to get Jason's opinion for you guys here in the chat. On Saturday, TNA held its Hall of Fame, inducting Bob Ryder and Rhino. Now, there were other considerations, as Fightful Select reports AJ Styles and Monty Brown were both considered. The door isn't closed on those possibilities, as it was noted that the possibility of Styles was broached by WWE, which passed on the opportunity. The report noted that we weren't told specifically why, but people in TNA believe it's due to AJ's injury or active storyline. It was said that Styles might be open to wrestling, but it's unclear whether that was ever discussed. Wrestling for TNA, that is. So there was an update on this today, and due to, obviously, which I'm assuming is fan backlash, because there were people asking why, and I'm sure the TNA fan base wanted to know why. AJ put out a statement today on why he didn't want to go into the Hall of Fame. He says, "I'm still an active wrestler. I hope. I made the decision not to go into the TNA Hall of Fame. I appreciate TNA. I don't want to go into any Hall of Fame as long as I'm still an active pro wrestler. My choice." Leave it at that. That's all the explanation that you need. I know this isn't really much of a story, Jason, obviously, with AJ. Hopefully he gets better, because I do think he's still a very big part of WWE TV when he is a part of something big. And I did enjoy his work with Cody. I was enjoying him back on television. I'm sad to see that he got hurt, and it was legitimate. But as far as Bound for Glory, I know I tuned in just to see Joe Hendry, because obviously you and I are in the same boat. Like, I thought that he was going to win that six-way at Slammiversary. He did not. And everybody's like, "Oh, don't worry, he'll win it at their bigger show. He'll win it at their flagship show in October." And then we get to October, and then all of a sudden I see JBL on my fucking television, and then it's the most overbooked carny garbage that I could possibly ever watch. It's like, why did I waste my time watching this when this guy should have obviously been crowned the champion 3 fucking months ago? And now to me, the boat is missed. I don't even know if they want to do it in 2025, if it's even going to have the same impact, no pun intended, as it would have had this past weekend. What'd you make of that ridiculous ending, and why they didn't crown Joe Hendry the TNA champion?
I think he's a classic case of, there are times where you strike when the iron is hot. And right now he is still their hottest babyface attraction in the company. And people were expecting it. A lot of people, I think, were expecting it in July, and they didn't get it. And that was it was a 6-way. You're like, all right, maybe he'll get a one-on-one match for it. And so Bound for Glory, their big, tentpole show of the year, comes, and they have him booked. And as soon as I realized that it wasn't the main event, I figured something might be up here, because why wouldn't you close out the show with it? And then I'm watching this, and like you said, there's Frankie Kazarian's in there as the heel referee because they got a story going with him. Okay, fine. Then JBL shows up, and he's been playing this like last outlaw character. He's been popping up everywhere, right?
Great, another Jeff
doing
Jarrett.
He's in AAA. He's doing something with AAA. He was in GCW. He made an appearance there, and in TNA as well. So there he is. And he's clotheslining everybody. He's clotheslining Frankie Kazarian. He's clotheslining Joe Hendry. He's clotheslining Ryan Nemeth. Something's going on with him and Nick, because he didn't put his hands on Nick Nemeth. And all the other times he's been around Nick Nemeth, he hasn't put his hands on him. And then they tease that Hendry is going to lose to Nemeth's finish, and he kicks out. It's like, oh, okay. All right. They wanted a little false finish there. So they wrestle another like 90 seconds, and then he hits his finish again, and he pins him. And they have this overhead shot. This is such a TNA shot. They have this overhead camera shot, and all you see is Joe Hendry's body. It's like he's making snow angels. Like his body is just outstretched, like a dead body. You want to draw the chalk outline around him, and he's laying in the ring on the TNA logo. And it's just like, okay, this is just one of those classic TNA moments that we used to see more of, with those overbooked, Jeff Jarrett main events. And that's what it felt like. That's what it really felt like. Maybe they're going to crown him in their, at their January show, which I think is hard to kill. Maybe they're not going to crown him at all. Maybe they have a sense that we don't, that maybe he's not long for the company. All the reports that have come out, and I haven't seen anything to the contrary, seem to indicate that he's still going to be under contract with them for as much as another year or more. It's not a case where, we've heard stuff about Jordynne Grace where, her deal is up at the beginning of next year, January, February. I haven't heard anything about that with Joe Hendry. So all these people assuming that means he's about to leave and go to WWE, I would be surprised if we don't see him in the Royal Rumble. That does not mean that he is going to WWE. So I think he's still going to be with TNA. There's still time to put the belt on him. Will he still be as over? Are the fans going to react to it in the same way that they would have, last weekend? I don't know. I hope for his sake, because he's a genuinely nice guy. And anybody who's met him at an appearance or a signing, and I had the chance to meet him briefly when we brought him in for House of Glory. Nice guy, and always just
very humble.
Yeah, very humble. Again, he's had an incredible year, and so hasn't let it go to his head or anything like that. Very down to earth, and I always like seeing good things happen to good people, and him getting himself over that way, I think, is one of the feel-good wrestling stories of the year, honestly. So I look at him and I think, I just hope that they don't wait too long and they miss the boat on what for him would be a really special moment. And I don't know what his future is going to be or when he may, be a free man or anything like that, but it just left a sour taste in my mouth. And I'm sure it left a sour taste in a lot of other people's mouths too, which is not what you want to do. Frankly, even if he was leaving in the next few months, I still would have put the belt on him.
Yeah, of course.
I still would have gotten that moment because people were like, yeah, but what if he's going to leave in 2 months? Who cares?
Well, that was my next question to you. It's like, did they refrain from putting the championship on him because they have a feeling he is going to jump ship? But like you said, if they put the title on him, who's to say that they don't have another top-level heel there that could get some massive heat by beating the over babyface in Joe Hendry?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that. Like, there's really no argument. If that's your only argument, well, I would have done the same thing, but he might be gone in 2 months or 3 months. That's not an excuse. You can put the belt on him. You can get that moment. And even if you take it away from him a week later or at the very next show the next month, you find a heel in that company that could beat him for it. And like you said, you try to put as much heat on that person as possible. You can still work it to your advantage, but still give people that moment that they've been clamoring for. And they didn't do it. And I really hope they didn't miss the boat and they don't wait too long on it if they're still going to put the belt on him. But I just saw it as a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't know how fans are going to feel about it. I think it's going to be severely less than after the last two opportunities. But listen, if they need anybody for top consideration for a world championship in 2025, I know Jason and I have called more matches than a lot of people for this specific individual. I think it's Mike Santana's time in TNA. He's obviously our world champion in House of Glory. He's coming up on 1 full calendar year as world champion for House of Glory. He's had some of the best matches on the independent circuit this year. I mean, the match with Red still resonates with both me and Jason because we were fucking losing our minds on commentary. It was ridiculous. Mike Santana should obviously be in consideration for the TNA World Championship. I don't know when or where, but there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get there. I mean, he's worked too hard, and he looks fucking incredible not to be considered for that spot. In TNA, it doesn't really give me much hope if they failed on this with Joe Hendry. It's like, please don't do that to Mike Santana, because there's one guy that's busted his ass to get back and show everyone he can do it, because of what he did in AEW. He was a tag team, LAX. They dropped the ball on LAX. Now he's back on his own, kicking bigger ass than ever before. It's him.
Yeah, I think he's going to get his moment in 2025. I don't know if it'll be the latter part of the year, the early part of the year, but it just feels like they're building him up to that point. I would be very surprised if he doesn't end up with that championship at some point. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, we know, I mean, everybody works hard, but like, he worked hard to come back from that injury, and he came back from that ACL injury a different person. More driven and motivated. He transformed his body. And I think there were a lot of people doubting whether or not he could hack it on his own as a single star, because he was part of a tag team for so long. And I think he silenced a lot of those people this year.
Gonna look forward to that. We love Mike Santana, and he's got a couple of. He's actually got one more show this year for us, and then that's gonna be in December for House of Glory. We've got the Hardys coming in, so we'll keep you guys posted on that for sure about who he's wrestling on that show. Obviously, defending the HOG World Championship. Saturday night's main event, another event I'm looking forward to in December. That's happening on December 14th, 8 p.m. at the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island. And obviously, you guys know how special Saturday night's main event is for WWE. They have 2 matches planned, they meaning WWE, for this show. Now, in the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer, take it with a grain of salt, Dave Meltzer reports that Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens and Gunther versus Damian Priest, both championship matches, are planned for the show. But Dave says we were told both are currently slated but not etched in stone. Now, obviously, we'll get into the Crown Jewel predictions a little bit later on in the show, but that, just reading that, would mean to me, if we do get Kevin Owens and Randy Orton on Saturday, which apparently it was made official by Triple H on Friday, Kevin Owens might play a role in the Cody Rhodes and Gunther match for the Crown Jewel Championship on Saturday afternoon.
That's what I'm betting on.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to get into the predictions now, but yes, I think there's a very good chance of that happening.
Yeah, we'll save that for the end of the show. I think a lot of people aren't really all into the Crown Jewel build. I think coming out of Raw, I felt a little bit bored going into last night's stream. I just felt like outside the Uso stuff, there really wasn't much to talk about. But as far as the rest of the show, we'll definitely go over that at the end of tonight's TNT. But moving on here, we have WWE music. I know everybody loves Def Rebel, and everybody's just over the moon about the great banger songs that they keep producing week in and week out.
Role model.
Yeah, role model. What was the
model.
What was the one that I heard this week, man? Fuck. I heard something on television.
Newer song?
I don't know who it was, from somebody. I don't know if it was. I always laugh at role model, but I don't know. It's just I hear that shit. DIY has a new metal theme. Did you hear that one? It might have been that one. It's just like you're just continuing to make it worse. Just stop.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
But I'm glad War Raiders got their theme music back. They got their CFO's theme music back, which is great. I just hope that the crowd gets involved and starts chanting war along with the theme like it used to happen in NXT. But Def Rebel will no longer.
Well, you know what? Being that they're on the Raw roster, they should find a way to tie in the whole Raw as War thing, but like adapt it for them.
Oh well, Wade Barrett did mention that last night. It's war, yeah. Raw is War now with the War Raiders back.
Yeah. No, I think they should lean into that.
I like that. Those were the days. Def Rebel, though, you guys know that they have a contract coming up at the end of the year, and this is coming from Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful was told that they will be out, and apparently a lot of people are mentioning Jim Johnston. They want him back. Sapp was told that this wasn't specifically for a composer role, that they have an opening now for the music portion of their company. But Jim Johnston held that job would also communicate with UFC, PBR, and other TKO properties. And speaking to several WWE talents who are currently using Def Rebel themes, Corey Brennan of Fightful was met with frustration across the board with Def Rebel's methods and themes that they have produced, fans and performers alike, with several talents expressing negativity about their current theme music. When Sapp spoke with talent, many were never told outright why their theme music changed from the CFO's era, even though they asked. The talent that we've heard back from said that they haven't had direct contact or met Def Rebel. That's got to be ridiculously frustrating to not even meet the fucking people. How are you going to not meet the people writing your theme music? You don't even get a feel for the talent. Like, how the fuck do you know who you're writing for?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I don't know that Jim Johnston met with all the talent either. I mean, he had a process for what he would do when it came to the music. And he's talked about this before, where he could just see video of a wrestler and he would watch their entrance. So he wanted to see, the way they walked and what they were wearing. And he could get a real sense in his mind of the kind of music, and then like a beat or a tune would just come to him. So I don't even think with him it was necessarily a case where he would have a phone call or an in-person meeting with all the talent. So yes, it would make sense that way you can get familiar with them. But you got to remember something. The roster, when Jim Johnston was doing and composing themes for WWE, the roster was very different than it is today. The roster is exponentially larger today than it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. There's so many more talents that they call up, and they're doing music for the main roster and NXT. So I don't even know that it's necessarily practical, especially with people on the road, to meet with everybody. That doesn't bother me so much. But it is very interesting, the process that Johnston would have, and I'm not sure about Def Rebel and the kind of process they have, but I do wonder, and I absolutely believe this is part of the problem. There is so much talent, and they are tasked with composing and producing so much music. I listen to their music, and there's some bangers in there. I don't want people to think like they've never had a good song. CFO's had some bangers, right? They had Nakamura's music, and I mean, there's a period with the Black and Gold there where some of that music was fucking great, and they were responsible for a lot of that stuff. Finn Balor, I think, was another one. Aleister Black,
Baron Corbin's old theme.
Baron Corbin. Now, Aleister Black also, right? But I think it was...
His was Code Orange, though, I think.
Well, Code Orange sang it, but it may have been whoever was responsible for it. But with Def Rebel, they're producing so much music, there's a sameness to it. And I just find that so many of these songs are completely indistinguishable from one to the other. There's just a sameness to it. There's no creativity. There's no uniqueness to it. It's kind of soulless in many ways.
Well, that's why a lot of people say it's AI generated. I could believe it.
Maybe it is, because again, they're producing so much of it that I could see that being something they might rely on. But the example I used when I talked about this on my show was I was at the Royal Rumble this year in Tampa, and it was especially noticeable in the women's Royal Rumble match, where we would be sitting there and they would do the countdown, and then they would hit someone's music, and if I wasn't looking up at the screen to see the name of the person, I wouldn't know who the fuck was coming out. And I wasn't the only one. There were people like, wait, who is that? Right? And then you would see, oh, okay. It's like, who the fuck is that?
Candice LeRae is out. Who is that? I can't see.
Well, I know her music, but there were a lot of other women, especially if it was somebody maybe like making a cameo from NXT. And it's like, I have no idea who this person is just by listening to the music. And it never used to be that way. You would hear the first opening chords of a song and you would know exactly who it was. So it just doesn't have any identity. And that's a very big problem. And I think everybody clamoring for the days of Jim Johnston. Jim Johnston is not coming back. Okay, Jim Johnston, I don't know what politics were involved in that. He did not quit. It was not an amicable split. He was fired. He was pushed out. And clearly they don't want him. They don't want to have anything to do with him. I don't know why, but they don't. And he's also now, I don't know, he's in his 70s, and who even knows if
I think he's like 77, so he's up there, late 70s for sure, yeah.
So this notion that maybe, let's just bring him back, it's just not practical. And frankly, I don't think that's the thing that they need to be doing. I don't think you need to have one person or one group in charge of all the music. I think that's the wrong way to go. I think, especially with the number of talents they have, it would be good for them to have multiple parties instead of just one group or one individual handling all of the music. And that way you get a different perspective on different themes. You get a little bit of variety there, if they could work together. I think personally that would be the way to go, if it's me. But people pining for the old days, let's just bring back Jim Johnston. You got to give up on that, okay? It's not happening. Clearly, if they wanted him back, they would have brought him back. And they don't want to bring him back, although he's another one who is very deserving of a Hall of Fame induction.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he's. I think people are clamoring for Jim Johnston back because of what Jason just said. Like, it's difficult to watch and not speak to the talent outright, face to face, or have a phone call with them, get their vibe, understand their character, who they are, and what they're about. He would watch a vignette or a promo or entrance and see them without even saying anything to them, and just like, all right, I'm going to go produce this music, I'm going to compose this music, and I'm going to have this ready for him next time he's on TV. That's a talented human being. That's like someone picking up a guitar without looking at any musical notes or tabs or anything on whatever, Master of Puppets by Metallica, which is not an easy song to learn if you're a beginner guitar player. Pick it up and just start strumming along and play along to the actual song. It's difficult to do, but people do that. My brother does that. So I've always been in awe of him doing that because he's a natural musician. So I would love if they get someone like that, but that's why people are clamoring for Jim Johnson, because when you're in tune with the music like he was, they want that to resonate on television. And we don't have that right now. So I don't know where they're going to get that from, but there's talk here about maybe licensing music, maybe getting a couple of artists that work specifically for WWE, actual core musicians to write the music. They mentioned Judgment Day here. One talent joked to Sapp that at one point all the members of Judgment Day, Damage Control, Seth Rollins, had a very similar intro to their theme over a several-year period, although those were from Def Rebel in the latter two cases and Alter Bridge in the former. So for a period of a few years, any one of a dozen people could have been coming out, the talent said, joking about the similarities. Now, sources that spoke to Sapp had not heard of any imminent plan to utilize more licensed music as theme songs, as had been speculated, but there were a few wrestlers who inquired about those rumors and were told that the long-term clearance issues were the case. Licensed music is still expected to be featured as WWE works to integrate more artists into their shows and PLEs. In another note about the Def Rebel theme music, Brennan also learned that upon his return to WWE after Survivor Series last year, the theme music change that Fightful Select previously reported was indeed a Def Rebel remix of Orton's iconic Voices theme, with multiple different remixes being pitched to Orton since. Orton rejected all of them.
He said, fuck no, you're not changing my music. Get the fuck out of here.
He rejected all of them. Contrary to popular belief, Sapp is told that not every talent was approached or mandated for a theme adjustment from regime to regime. There are still some talent that use their Jim Johnston themes and haven't been approached for new ones across multiple regimes. This goes the same with Bianca Belair and some that still use their CFO Money theme. So I don't know why that wasn't the case. I mean, if you had a great theme, I don't know why WWE just now outright buy the license or the rights to that theme music, because it fucking fit. Def Rebel had been responsible for the production of WWE theme music for years. Sapp was also told that there was a significant publishing issue between the members of CFOs and WWE, and they even tried to buy them out of their deal 5 years ago, but the publisher rejected. WWE was hoping to bring them in-house, but talks got to a standstill and then eventually ran out, and the duo had a non-compete with their publisher and then disbanded. CFO's publisher Arcade Songs owner Greg Wattenberg had helped establish connections from WWE with 12 Stones, Drowning Pool, Finger 11, and Alter Bridge. CFOs would often take direct input from talent when working on their themes. There you go. No wonder the themes were such banger themes. But also had a library of themes produced to use. This isn't confirmed, but the word in the industry was that WWE owned the publishing rights of Jim Johnson and Def Rebel's themes, but only 50% of CFO's themes. The group was no longer allowed to use the name, and we're told at least one of them left music altogether. For those asking about a Jim Johnston run-in, we've been told repeatedly over the years that it's unlikely that he's in his 70s. We've not heard of his current relationship with the company, but those we've spoken to say that they wouldn't be surprised to see a bridge being built to acknowledgement under the new regime. The internal feeling is the frustrations around Def Rebel, and the company is hiring someone to streamline a lot of music-related communications. CFOs had a financial falling out with WWE and their publisher and are no longer together, with one leaving music altogether. Johnston is not expected back in WWE. Listen, I mean, there's a lot to digest here. As long as there's steps to take here and obviously address the huge gap and the huge problem that is WWE production, because that's the one thing I would say out of all the production enhancements that they've made, that still is just, it is unbearable to listen to, man.
There's no excuse for it. No. As hot as the product is right now, and obviously presentation is king with WWE. You look at these PLEs and everything is just so grandiose now and everything, and you would think they would take more care when it came to the music. You and I both know music is such an important part of the presentation for a wrestler. I mean, it can make or break a wrestler. And there are some iconic themes that have stood the test of time for some of the biggest names in the history of that company. So you really have to, I think, just take better care when it comes to that sort of thing. When I hear Sheamus come out, it's painful. I mean, it really is. It's painful to hear him come out now.
And that's not even the worst of the theme songs.
It's not, but it's one of the more egregious examples, because with him, there were people for years, oh, bring back the old theme, right? And then he did, and everybody was singing along, lobster head, and everybody was having fun with it, right? Too many limes. And everybody was having fun. And literally, like 3 weeks later, they took it away. And they have given him the most generic Irish-sounding music. It's like literally they were thumbing through a catalog, and it was like Irish music number 7, and they just picked it. And that's what he comes out to now. Because even his, post the first theme, the second one that he had, Hellfire, was a pretty banger theme. I like that one too. When he'd be standing in the aisle, they'd put the spotlight on him. He looked milky white, and then he would have that great drum beat. So they took that away from him, and they've given him something more generic than anything he's ever come out to in his career. AJ Styles, they changed his music. You mentioned Johnny Gargano. There's just so many different examples of this. And I just hope that this is an acknowledgement, like you said, that, okay, we hear you. We hear the feedback, and we're taking steps soon, hopefully, to try to remedy this. But I really do think it's going to take more than just one group. It's going to take more than just one driving force, unless they're just going to start licensing music, which is a very costly endeavor. And I don't know that they want to be spending money on licensed music for everybody. I appreciate what Tony Khan does when it comes to licensed music. You could argue whether or not it's a great use of resources sometimes, but I love it when Bryan Danielson comes out to Final Countdown.
I mean, fuck. Adam Copeland came out to goddamn Slayer when he wrestled fucking Malachi.
Yeah, or Sting. When
came
Sting
out to Metallica, yeah, Seek and Destroy.
Right. So I love that stuff, and I wish the WWE would do that sometimes. They don't have to do it all the time, but it just makes it more fun, I think, for the presentation and for the fans. But as long as they take steps to correct this, because it has been one of the more glaring issues, even as like creative has improved from where it was 5 years ago, like a lot has gotten better and a lot has improved. The music situation has actually gotten worse, and they need to do something about it soon.
Yeah, man. I agree with you 100%. Hopefully it gets fixed. But listen, man, not everybody can have a great Judgment Day theme song, from the great Alter Bridge.
You're an Alter Bridge mark, so I expected you to say that.
I know. Moving on. Listen, I got some Judgment Day news here. This is actually very interesting and something that I could see definitely playing out, because God only knows that this feud could use it. But WWE rarely does intergender matches, and I don't think that they would even entertain the idea, but with these two, it certainly could make sense. Obviously, Liv Morgan has been in a program with Rhea Ripley, and that's been happening for most of this year. At the start of their program, Ripley was injured, vacated the women's world title. Liv Morgan went over Becky Lynch. Obviously, you guys know the story there. At SummerSlam, Morgan went over Ripley in their grudge match with the help of Dominic Mysterio, who turned on Rhea Ripley. At Bash in Berlin, Morgan and Mysterio put over Ripley and Damian Priest in a mixed tag team match. Along the way, Mysterio has been in the middle of this feud with Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. But on a recent edition of Backstage Pass, WrestleVotes said that there's actually talk of doing Dominic Mysterio and Rhea Ripley in a one-on-one match. He says, I know it's been brought up. Unfortunately, I don't know how high it's made. It's up the ladder, but there's a real desire on some level of creative to do this match before the angle fizzles out. Yes, it was added. I don't know how far down the table it went. From a lower end, yes, there's an anticipation of getting something out of this. Rhea has openly expressed the interest in the idea in this match with Dominic, something WWE teased when Mysterio put hands on Rhea Ripley on a recent episode of Monday Night Raw. Jason, I know Vince probably would have never in 1,000 lifetimes gone for something like this, but is Triple H and the new administration maybe possibly leaning towards doing an intergender match on WWE TV where it was probably forbidden to do so?
I think that it would make sense if you were going to do one. That's the match to do. It's a match. I pitched the idea of doing this match a few months ago, and people were like, "Oh, they're never going to do it." And I said, "Yeah, probably not, but like, they could definitely make it work." they still, I think, are in a position where it's just hard for me to imagine them doing a full-blown singles match. I hope it happens. I think it could actually be very entertaining if they work it the right way. And I think the story is there for it. It almost feels like Rhea feuding with Liv right now is more of the backdrop for the real feud, which is Rhea and Dom. Right? And every time she goes after him and tries to give him Riptide, everybody gets, all excited, and then Judgment Day saves him. So it almost feels like they are building to a match that may not even happen. I look at that, and I'll be honest with you, I think that could be a WrestleMania match. I think that with the history between these two characters, as long as they were together now they're feuding with each other. They're getting Rhea and Liv out of the way now. I don't think you can't drag that out until WrestleMania.
No,
you're not going to be able to get enough mileage out of it to get this all the way to the end of April. I think that would be ridiculous. But if they wanted to, I'm not saying that it's going to happen at WrestleMania. I'm just saying that I could see that as a WrestleMania match because it would be an attraction. And what's WrestleMania all about, right? It's about attractions. Rhea against Dom at WrestleMania in Las Vegas would be an attraction that I think would get a lot of attention, maybe some of it negative, but it would get a lot of attention and a lot of eyeballs, I think, on the company. Not ideal if she's the women's champion because she should be defending the title on that show. So maybe they don't do it in Mania. Maybe they do it on the show before. It feels like maybe now is the time that we are close to seeing it happening. I'm still skeptical, though, because they've made it very clear that they're not interested in doing man-on-women violence. I mean, Rhea puts her hands on guys all the time. They don't hit back. They're still very careful when it comes to that. And you can't do a full-blown match without her taking some bumps, without him throwing hands, I wouldn't think. So I'm skeptical, but if I'm WWE, I find a way to do that match.
I think
it would be a big attraction for them.
It would. I think the last time we got any sort of intergender nonsense on WWE TV, it might be dating back to Sasha and Reggie. Remember that? When Reggie was in the ring with Sasha and he was doing those flips and dives, and he didn't lay one hand on her, though. He was just doing moonsaults and backflips and acrobatics.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, though. I mean, if they're going to have like a real big full-blown match, you can't just have Dominic run away from her the entire time. Like, it's not going to work. So it has to be more than that. I mean, before that, geez, I don't know. I mean, you go back to Vince and Stephanie in 2003. I don't know how long it's been. It's been a very long time. But it just feels like if ever they were going to do it, this is it. Rhea and Dom. It's just the story's right there.
How do you see this storyline playing out? Do you think we get a women's War Games match this year? I've been pretty vocal about it. If we don't need a women's War Games, then don't do it. I don't really see where any of these women fit into a War Games situation. But could you see a Team Rhea versus Team Liv War Games match set up for Survivor Series?
You have to. I mean, they're not going to not do a women's War Games match. Okay, they're just not. You think they're going to leave it out? They're just going to do a men's War Games?
That's why I said if there's no need for it, we don't need to do it. I don't know.
Of course they're going to do it. And to me, the only thing that makes sense would be Team Rhea against Team Liv. Although I will say, the way things are shaping up in NXT right now, there's a much more attractive option if you do an NXT women's War Games match.
Yes.
I saw that Jordan Grace apparently appeared on NXT tonight.
Oh, who didn't? Who hasn't showed up over there? Holy shit!
But I'm gonna say, like, look at what they have. Look at what they have to work with right now. Shawn Michaels, look at what he has to work with on the women's side right now, heading into this show next week, because apparently they signed some big tag team match. You've got Jordan Grace, who again I think is going to be full time working for them in a few months.
By the way, she's my early pick to win the Royal Rumble.
You've got Zarya, the former Delta, who just debuted and looks phenomenal. I mean, she looks like a monster.
By the way, I don't want to cut you off. Have you seen her without the makeup on?
No, I haven't.
She is a very lovely lady.
She's very intimidating with the makeup on.
Yes.
So it works. It's like the character is perfect for her. So you've got Jordan Grace, you've got Zarya, you've got Julia, you've got Stephanie, Stephanie Vicaire, who now is in. You've got Roxanne. Cora Jade is in the mix there as well. And of course, they have a whole pipeline of great talent right now in the women's division, whether it's Sol Ruca or Lola Vice or Fallon Henley, Kalani Jordan, on and on and on. You got a much bigger palette. If you want to put together a women's War Games match using the NXT women, I'd much rather see that than any combination they could put together right now on the main roster side.
I'd love to see it. I mean, we've seen War Games in NXT, but I don't think they're going to go back and do that. I mean, it started in NXT, and then they moved it to the main roster. But
no, I'm just saying theoretically, if what you said is true, and it was like, man, we really don't want to do a women's War Games match this year. There's no real story for it. But you know what? Maybe this year we'll give it to the women on NXT. And not that the match would happen on NXT, but it would have those women in a War Games match at Survivor Series. I'd be okay with that.
Hey, listen, I mean, if it's fair game, if the main roster's fucking down there every week, why not the ladies on NXT show up on the main roster? Why not?
They're on the CW every week. Broadcast TV, baby.
Update here. End of the 5th inning. Yankees 5, Dodgers 4. The Yankees took the lead.
That sounds like a Dodgers comeback to me.
We'll see. You guys, you Yankee fans are sweating over there, man. It could be elimination in the Bronx.
At least
today.
it's a little more competitive than it's been the first 3 games.
Yeah, listen, their bats woke up. 5 runs is 5 runs, man. So we'll see what happens there. But moving on, we will now get into the discussion here about the WWE ID Independent Wrestling Developmental Program that WWE announced today on social media. Press release released today. WWE launches new indie wrestling development program. Booker T's Reality of Wrestling, Cody Rhodes' Nightmare Factory, Seth Rollins' Black and Brave Academy, Elite Pro Wrestling Training Center in Concord, New Hampshire, and Knox X Pro Wrestling Academy in Los Angeles are the first associated with this new program. Now, WWE will provide prominent independent wrestling schools with the WWE ID official designation with the goal of providing new trainees and existing talent at these select institutions with enhanced developmental opportunities. Additionally, WWE ID will identify top independent wrestling prospects with an official WWE ID prospect designation and support their developmental journey by providing financial opportunity and assisting with training, mentorship, and development, including access to world-class facilities, best-in-class ring training, athletic trainers, and more. WWE ID will give fans the opportunity to follow the paths of these standout prospects on the independent wrestling scene through curated, behind-the-scenes content, as well as highlights and matches showcased across WWE's social media platforms. Now, Seth Rollins mentioned on X in regards to Black and Brave being a part of this. We're honored to be recognized by WWE as a top destination for aspiring professional wrestlers across the globe in partnership with WWE ID. And we look forward to continuing to provide exceptional training for those seeking to make an impact in our industry. Booker T also tweeted out that he was very excited to be a part of the program for this WWE ID. Now, I did tweet out earlier today. I love this because if there's one thing I really kind of pay attention to, it's what the transition and the transitional phases have been between NXT, NXT 2.0, the NIL program. I like this type of thing. But in my opinion, right off the gate, Jason, I feel like WWE introduced a new indie development program called WWID. And I'm seeing a lot of mixed reactions online from this is great, and some people saying it will cannibalize the market and how WWE is going to monopolize pro wrestling again and they're going to overtake the indies. We all know how WWE operates. So how much of this process will WWE control is obviously one of the first things that comes to people's minds. As soon as they get their hands on something, WWE is going to want to oversee the entire thing instead of working with said schools and said talents. I don't know how it will work, but it certainly feels like the original vision of NXT TakeOver is basically WWE having performance centers in different pockets of the United States outside of Orlando. There was a rumor that WWE was set to move the performance center from Orlando to Las Vegas. That was met with widespread criticism and worry because a lot of talents move and uproot their life to move to Orlando, and then you're going to ask them, you know what, let's nix that idea. Let's go to Vegas. So now, if WWE wants to have different schools operate as WWE facilities and training centers, they have one in Ohio, or Iowa rather, for Seth Rollins, one in Houston for Booker T, and all these other places, it's going to be a little bit more accessible for people to want to be a WWE superstar to train at these WWE regulated facilities. WWE cannot continue to build off the NIL program only. The payoff on that program could take years, and it may not work out for most of the athletes that they bring in. The NIL program, to me, was an agenda to cushion the blow from the transition from Black and Gold to NXT 2.0. There was nothing wrong with the way that they were doing the Black and Gold process. They killed it with absolutely no reason behind it. And now it seems like they're going back on their original vision, feeding the brand through the indies, but in a more wholesome way for WWE instead of poaching talent left and right pretty blatantly like they did and pretty much uprooted all of Ring of Honor and all the independent scene to fill NXT Black and Gold. So all we can say is we'll see. But the first thing that jumped off my head was Zilla Fatu, and someone who obviously is on everybody's radar and they want to see his progress. Obviously, he's a part of the Fable Dana White family, to see his progress through his journey and where he ends up. And everybody says he'll end up in WWE. Even Booker T says so. That's the way I feel about it, Jason. What were your initial first thoughts when you read this this statement put out by WWE today?
For me, it was a mix of I'm not surprised and I see the pros and the cons of it. It really is not just a black or white, this is great, this is terrible. I think there's a mix of both. My initial reaction was, this is great for WWE. And this is something that I'm surprised they didn't do sooner. Many years ago, I was talking, on my show, I would talk a lot about how I always felt that it would be advantageous to them to set up like their own territory system. And so you would almost have a situation where they would have little mini developmental leagues in different parts of the country and even different parts of the world. But they would partner up with an existing school or an academy, like Lance Storm, had his Storm Wrestling Academy. And he was always getting rave reviews as a trainer. And so why not set up shop there or have some sort of partnership there and in that part of the world and maybe someplace in Europe. And I didn't know why they weren't doing that. And I always felt like that would make sense. That's essentially what they're doing here. They're partnering up. It's very early in the process. We only know of these, five schools. There will be more, I'm sure, that are added. And you'll notice in most of them, there's obviously a former WWE or current WWE star that is running it or their name is attached to it. So there's like an automatic relationship there anyway. So I think for them, it's a win-win situation because they will only produce so much talent of their own from the Performance Center. You're not going to be able to just have a situation where all of your talent is going to come exclusively out of Orlando and out of the PC from scratch. You mentioned the NIL program, okay? That kicked off in 2021. The first person to get an NIL deal in WWE was Gable Steveson, okay? That didn't work out too well. He was an Olympic gold medalist, NCAA champion, right? It made sense that they would want to go after him, but that was a failure. You know who was in the first NIL class that WWE had? Obafemi. I'd say he's doing pretty well right now. But if you look at the NIL program, it's not like it's turning out, tons and tons of names. All that really is they're identifying certain collegiate athletes and they're saying, okay, you might be a good fit for what we do. So we're going to nurture you and support you. And then maybe one day you'll want to do this and we'll feel like you're ready and we'll give you a contract. Just because you're NIL doesn't mean you're automatically in. Remember the Cavender twins?
Yeah.
Right? They had them on TV. What happened to them? I don't even know if they're still.
They foolishly booked them to do twin magic, like the Bella twins on TV in their one appearance.
Yeah, and then we haven't seen them since. So who knows if we'll see them?
Are they even still there? They still there?
I don't know. I don't know if they're still there or not.
Wow.
So you can't rely on something like NIL to get all your future talent. But again, they're looking at that as we're gonna hit these guys and these girls as soon as they're at the ground level here, and we're going to set ourselves up where even if we grab one or two or three, maybe they're the next big thing. This is a natural evolution of that. This is WWE wanting to have their hands in everything, and that scares people. And I think people have a reason to be scared, which is the flip side of this, which is I think if you're an independent wrestling promoter, you have every right, unless you're one of the, schools or promotions that are partnered with WWE right now, you have a reason to look at this and be skeptical and be worried. How far does this go? We saw Triple H's plans many years ago. It was like 8 or 9 years ago for global domination.
There was a fucking NXT billboard of it with just like yellow all over the world.
It was a map. No, it was a map of all the different continents with NXT logos.
Gee, man, I wonder why you named it TakeOver.
Yeah, in Japan and Mexico and South America and all these different places because they wanted to set up performance centers and take over the entire world, and it scared the shit out of people. And at the time, I was sounding the alarm, and I said, look, if you're an independent wrestling promoter, you got to have just a cold sweat coming over your body right now because you can see where this is going. And then you look at NXT UK, which is no more. And they set it up, and they basically raided everybody from the UK independent scene that they wanted. And I don't want to just lay this all at the feet of WWE. I saw some people mentioning the NXT UK thing on my timeline. Yes, WWE definitely bears some responsibility for what happened there, but the UK independent scene also did a lot of damage to itself. So I think it goes both ways. But that scene ended up getting decimated there for a while. And then they just shut it down because they were going to set up NXT Europe. That was their big plan. We're going to set up NXT Europe. It's coming soon. We're still waiting for NXT Europe. And it probably is not going to happen. Not in the form they originally wanted it to. So for them, it's like, all right, you know what we'll do? We're going to partner up with some of these places that have a reputation that we can trust, or we already have people who are working for us who are either owning it or running it, and we can trust them. We can trust that they're reputable. We can trust that they're training people the right way. And that way, we get first dibs on somebody who we see as having the potential to make us money down the road. People are getting this twisted in that, well, now you're bound to WWE. Nobody is bound to WWE unless they want to be. Nobody in this situation, based on all the details we have so far, we don't have all the details. Nobody is saying that everybody has to commit to WWE if they train at this school because they're affiliated with WWE or this independent promotion. If there's somebody out there who wants to cut their teeth working in other places, they're free and clear to do that if they want to. But there's a lot of independent talent, especially younger independent talent, who are going to look at this and go, holy shit, this is my way in. Because let's be honest, 90 to 95% of independent talent aspire to go to WWE, right? You and I both know that. That's where they ultimately want to end up. There are some independent stars out there who are perfectly content to just work indies. They don't want to work for WWE, or they want to work in Japan, or maybe they want to go work for AEW and have the freedom to continue working indies. There are people like that, but a lot of these people, this is where they want to end up. And if that's their choice, then they can commit to working for WWE or the WWE ID designation. And apparently they're going to provide financial support. One of the questions I have is, what does that mean? What kind of financial support are they talking about? But they're going to provide financial support, visibility on their social media channels. That's very attractive. A lot of independent wrestlers, they do this. Some of them are weekend warriors. They'll work, their real job, and then they'll wrestle independently. They're trying to make a name for themselves. If this helps them do that a little bit easier, I see that as a good thing in that respect. But I can see where a lot of people have concerns because this is WWE that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And WWE is not like, oh, we want to nurture the independent scene. No, WWE wants to nurture and enrich themselves.
Yes.
And they want to have a pipeline to the best possible talent before anybody else, including AEW, anybody.
Yes.
They want first dibs on the stars of tomorrow. So they're looking out for themselves and their business. It's not that they give a shit about the independent scene. So for them, it's a great move. It makes all the sense in the world. It's smart business. But people have a right to be concerned and have questions that still need to be answered.
Now, I spent a good portion of my afternoon for you guys watching us. I appreciate everybody watching us. We got almost 2,300 people in here. If you guys are just joining us, please hit that thumbs up. Figured we have a little good banter back and forth. We usually do, but I curated a bunch of questions for Jason just in my, sit down with this story, kind of mulling things over. I came up with questions that I genuinely am curious about. And I'm going to shuffle them off to Jason here in a little back and forth. So this is the first question I got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions here in regards to this. First question is, Jason. Now, the great thing about the indies is you see talent raw, unfiltered, going through the phases of growing up. You and I see it through House of Glory. I mean, we see someone start at the beginning of the year and how they, position themselves at the end of the year. The growth process is the best thing about it. It's one of the most beautiful things watching pro wrestling, looking back at the origins of a performer. How much of this will WWE control? WWE likes a certain style. Performers, wrestlers, they like to mold them into what they deem presentable for WWE. How much of that origin will be disregarded for WWE to start these young men and women the way that they want?
That's still a question where we don't have the full answer, but I would just point to the press release and the announcement they made, and I think some people are maybe misinterpreting, what they said here. What they're talking about, as I understand it, is they are going to have an affiliation with select schools, and there's going to be this special designation that they have. And so some people are going to have this WWE ID designation. They're still going to be trained by Black and Brave or by Reality of Wrestling or the Nightmare Factory. They're going to be trained there, get the same type of training that they would be getting with or without that designation. So like at the Nightmare Factory, QT Marshall, I know, and that's another question I have, by the way, because QT works for AEW, and is that going to impact him in some way now that the Nightmare Factory is affiliated with WWE? Their training, I don't see their training being any differently than it would be if this program didn't exist. But if these people aspire to be in WWE, there is a certain style that they're going to have to learn at some point, whether it's when they're 20 or if they're 30 and they're trying to break into the company, right? They have a certain way that they coach and teach. There may be certain things where you got to tone down, right? We've seen people come in from the outside and they don't work the same style that they would somewhere else. Maybe they're not taking as many risks. They're probably being told you can't do that or tone that down. You may see changes like that. But again, if it's just a designation and they're still, being trained and they're working the independent scene, I don't know that it's going to have the immediate impact people are fearing. Oh my God, they're all going to be trained the same way. Oh my God, this is going to be so, constraining. I think people are overblowing that a little bit. I don't see that being the case, at least not initially.
Okay.
Yeah, I see why people would be concerned. That's one of my concerns in the overall kind of picture here, is that I do have a fear, which is that the more we hear about stuff like this and the deeper WWE gets into this, are we going to lose the next generation of CM Punks and Bryan Danielsons and Samoa Joes and Walter and all these people who they had their style and their way of working, and they worked all over the place, all over, not just the country, but all over the world, all over Europe and Mexico and Japan and different places and different styles. And I don't want to see that go to the wayside just so that everybody works the WWE television style because they feel like, well, this is what I have to be doing if I want to work there. I still think that you need a healthy enough independent scene that is unique in some way and doesn't just operate the way the WWE does, and that these people will still be around and they'll be able to cut their teeth and build up a reputation like these guys did that I just mentioned, because we need the next generation of that. And I don't want that sort of unique factor to be lost. And I feel like it could happen. I do think people are overreacting. I mean, again, we don't know where it's going to go.
Rightfully so. I mean, so to that, some people,
Yes.
that aspect of pro wrestling is very important to some people. I get it.
Yes, and there is a lot of sameness to pro wrestling today. I mean, it's one of the things I loved about Lucha Underground because it was different. It was unique. And I think that's one of the things that we really don't have a lot of in wrestling these days. There's a lot of shit, a lot of wrestling, and even the way the shows are produced and the way they look, there's a sameness to it all. And I would hate to lose that sort of unique aspect to it. And a valid concern, but I do think that people here in the early going are kind of getting ahead of themselves in that way.
Will WWE partner with certain schools and then dictate where they can and cannot work, lessening the experience of what it truly is to be an independent pro wrestler? For example, if WWE is partnering with Reality of Wrestling and they want Zilla Fatu working the indies, if they certainly have their eyes on him as a top prospect, will they want him working the indies? What about lesser-known talent who are a part of the first group of schools who want to work dark matches? Go work for Ring of Honor. Go work for AEW in some random match on Collision or Rampage to get some national TV exposure. Will that aspect of it be affected?
It could be. We don't know the details of what that WWE ID designation carries with it. If they're going to provide financial support to you,
Yeah.
there may be some provisions attached to that. That's one of the things that we still are very light on details here. And I don't even know if WWE has necessarily worked out all of these details. I saw that Sapp was talking about reaching out to the company to try to get answers to some other questions that he had. So again, we're still very early in this. We don't have all the answers. I think that if there are limits, that's one of the huge negatives of this if it works out this way. And there's a few that I can think of, but that would be one of them, because then you're not truly independent. Right? I mean, if you're being told you can't do this, you can't work there, you can't go here, you're not an independent wrestler anymore. Right? And if you read the release, this program, technically, it's not like you're automatically a WWE superstar. They're going to identify certain people that they think have the tools, and they're going to provide coaching, they're going to provide access to the PC, they're going to provide financial incentives, maybe some kind of almost like a scholarship in a way, like a wrestling scholarship, and they're going to follow along in your career. But it sounds like they're going to be mostly, you would think they would be mostly hands off and let you go out and do whatever it is that you want to do until such time that they feel like, okay, now we're going to offer you a contract. Once they offer you a contract, all bets are off. Now they basically own you. But it's not like these people are being signed to WWE contracts. That's not how I read this announcement.
Yeah.
So still got to get some of those details worked out. But you're not truly independent if they're putting all these restrictions on the places that you can and can't work. Because again, those are the things that you need to be doing. Whether you're working in Ring of Honor or you're working for some big indie promotion somewhere else outside of, reality of wrestling, you need to have the ability to go out and spread your wings and do that and work with different people and learn different styles and learn different ways of doing things, because that's the experience of being an independent wrestler, that you can bounce from place to place and do these things and not be told, like they're your parent, that you can and can't do this and you can and can't do that.
I think you answered some of my next question, but my next question was, some talents work rigorous weekly schedules. Some work multiple matches in a single day when it comes to some of the bigger weekends, bigger pro wrestling weekends of the year. For example, WrestleMania. I know several talents work several shows in the span of a single day during bigger shows of the year. Will this limit the amount of money one talent can make ultimately working independently? And will this bleed onto the indie promoters, raising the price tag for certain talent if they want to use said talent for one of their shows?
Well, that's one of the concerns, I think, that if you're an independent wrestling promoter, you have to have in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
If you get that WWE ID designation, is it going to cost you more to use that person? And there's another aspect to this too, which is not to say this isn't an issue right now with certain independent wrestlers and independent promotions, but if you get that WWE ID designation and you're going to go work somewhere, are you now in a situation, you got like a 22-year-old kid, let's say, right? Not a lot of experience, but they got that ID designation. They're like, you know what? I can't do the job. I can't lose. I'm a WWE ID guy. I can't lose. Now you have wrestlers, and we know this, you have wrestlers that are out there who, even right now, in the absence of all this, I mean, they'll probably show up and tell a promoter, I can't lose. I mean, it's not like people don't do that, or I wouldn't be surprised if some of them lie about it. They're like, I work for this other company and I can't lose. It's like, really? Can you though? So, I mean, that sort of thing does happen anyway, but that could be a real issue if they're going to work in different places and they're like, well, because I have this designation, not only might it cost them more, but now you're limited in what you could even do with them because they feel like, oh shit, well, they can't lose. So now what are we going to do? Do we want to use this person? Is it worth it to use this person? It could be challenging, I think, if you are a promoter hoping to bring some of these people in.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that I thought about as a possible major negative here. So we'll see. And I know you guys.
Yeah, because we've heard stories about that. Depending on who you're affiliated with, They don't want you to lose, and it could be a whole mess. I'm sure that in this case, that could end up being one of the problems that some of these promoters encounter.
It's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. This is an out there question. Let's see what Jason says about this. Endeavor and TKO, Ari, Emmanuel, Nick Khan, and Triple H. Clearly, we're not happy about AEW raising the market cap on pro wrestlers, as they did state it was bad for the industry and bad for business. Now, Tony Khan obviously has raised the market cap on what pro wrestlers are making nowadays. You guys see what he's doing and who he's signing and how much he's signing these people to. Endeavor Group Holdings, through its ownership of the talent agency WMD, that's William Morris Endeavor, is considered one of the biggest talent agencies in the world. They represent artists in films, television, music, theater, digital media, showcasing their significant influence and size in the entertainment industry. Tony Khan has effectively ruined some of the WWE bottom line. And I would take a nice bet, me personally, to say that it doesn't sit well with people who live and die by the dollar in Endeavor, TKO, and UFC. How much of this was a decision by Endeavor and TKO to effectively put a stop to Tony Khan's overwhelming spending?
I don't know if this is specific. I'm not going to sit here and say this is targeted at Tony Khan. I feel like this is an idea that they've had in the pipeline for a while now. It just felt like an inevitability to me. Now, there was that report, when Swerve signed his contract, the WWE supposedly felt they overpaid for Swerve and Daniel Garcia. I mean, you saw those same reports.
Yeah.
And they felt like they were ruining it for everybody else by overpaying for people who, are going to think they're worth this much when they're not really worth that much. I can't sit here and say that this was, this was conceived of with the idea of trying to stifle, Tony Khan and AEW, but it could have that effect. And, I do also wonder, as far as financially, when it comes to what these talents are going to be paid, are they going to be paid fairly? What kind of pay scale are we talking about here? I think one of the potential benefits, though, is, again, you could look at it both ways. If they're going to get financial support, or if there's financial incentives to sign with WWE to get that designation, it could be a situation where maybe some of these people end up being paid more, when they work certain independent shows than they might otherwise be paid. Because I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are underpaid for the work that they do. And not every independent promotion maybe is in a position to pay them what they feel like they're worth. This could help the talent in some of those cases maybe get paid better than they otherwise would if they did not have that designation. So I think there's also a potential benefit in it in that way for the talent. If you get that WWE ID badge and you're going out working independent shows, it's kind of like the talent that go into the Hall of Fame. They do, I think, get paid for going into the Hall of Fame, but they also get to go out to these conventions and these events and these signings and say, hey, I'm a WWE Hall of Famer now. And that could help drive up their fee and what they get paid. So it's kind of a similar idea. Yeah. I think it could work to their benefit in that way.
Yeah, I could see that being the case too, yeah.
Because again, it's like that seal of approval almost. Because WWE, whether you like them or not, okay, people, I got news for you. They're the most visible, biggest, most successful brand as far as what they do in the world. And people know WWE, and that logo and that designation is going to carry further than AEW or any other company that a lot of people may not know who they are. So it does make a difference if you go out there and you're branding yourself as a WWE superstar or a WWE prospect. It does help, and it could help drive up your value in some of these situations.
Some of the discourse on social media was that the NIL program is a failure now because WWE is going back to what their original vision was, and that is feeding the system through the indies. Does this deem the NIL program a failure now that WWE is setting up the WWE ID program?
No. This is a natural progression of their overall growth strategy. NIL, I think, makes a lot of sense because you want to get some of these kids when they're still in college or they're just coming out of college. Some of them maybe have, no wrestling experience. Maybe they're not even wrestling fans. But again, if you can pluck out some of them, and we've seen it already in NXT. I mean, how many men and women have we seen, especially on the female side, have these athletic backgrounds in like collegiate sports, and they're incredible athletes and gymnasts, and they're able to do all these incredible moves, but they came in with no wrestling experience, right? But now it's like they're killing it. So you need a program like that because you want to have a pipeline to that talent. And maybe the vast majority of them may not work out, but even if you only get a handful of them. So you have to have a program like that, I think, as part of your overall growth strategy. It doesn't mean that, oh shit, we really screwed the pooch. This didn't work out. And so now we have to do this. No, you want to be able to do that and do this. And look, they may set up additional performance centers. That might be the next step. It might not be in Las Vegas, but I wouldn't be shocked if they set up a performance center in the UK, if they set up a performance center somewhere else in Australia or someplace. 10 years from now, we could be looking at a world where they have half a dozen different PCs all over the globe. That could be the next phase of their strategy. It doesn't mean the NIL program was a failure. It doesn't mean what they're doing now at the performance center is a failure. This is a natural outgrowth of that. I think people are very quick to throw that word around. Oh, that must mean it failed. It's like an admission of failure. I don't look at it that way at all. I think it's smart strategy. If you're WWE, I think it's smart strategy to be doing this.
And just some of the names that WWE found through the NIL program: Tiffany Stratton, you mentioned Obafemi, Lash Legend, Sol Ruka, Braun Breaker. I mean, Tavon, what's his name? That went to Tavion Heights. Yeah, I mean. Yep. It's obviously it's not working as quickly as they want it to work, but it's certainly working. So
it's a process. This stuff doesn't happen overnight, though. I mean, there was a lot of discourse many years ago about whether or not the Performance Center was a success or a failure, because there was a period of time in the late 2010s where we were looking at Baron Corbin and maybe one or two other people that were like talent they plucked from scratch, that were not from the indies like all the other indie stars they used in the black and gold era. And they were like, well, this whole thing was a failure. All the millions of dollars they spent on the PC and this program to overhaul, developmental, because it used to just be partnering with OVW and Deep South, and that was it. And people were writing it off as a failure. But this stuff takes time. To develop talent takes time. And now WWE in the last few years, it's paying off for them, because look at the pipeline of talent that they've had in NXT. Many of the talents we see on the main roster right now came out of that system. It's a mix of indie talent and talent that they were able to coach and teach that came out of that system. So it took every bit of a decade, basically, to finally start yielding some real success. I don't see that as a failure at all. I think that any other promotion that would have done the same thing, they would have gone through the same growing pains. And it would have taken time, but in the end, you hope that you start to see the fruits of your labor pay off. And I think WWE right now is finally seeing it pay off. It took longer maybe than they wanted it to, but you can't say that it was a failure and they haven't made any new stars.
Lemieux in the chat says Bianca was NIL. False. Bianca was in before the NIL program was conceived. She was on TV already. So, but yes, I mean, that goes
Bianca,
in line.
Yeah, technically she might not have been in NIL, but Bianca was another talent they plucked, from college sports, who they clearly saw some potential in there, and she came from that same background. I don't know if that's what they meant, but yeah.
I got one last question here. Are we headed in a direction where WWE over time will take this program, make it where they are the governing body over what happens and what doesn't happen, writing the rules, ultimately requiring people to be certified to be a pro wrestler? Are we headed towards that type of timeline for WWE here?
I'm not going to say that they wouldn't love it, but no, we're not headed towards that. That's like a doomsday scenario that people are painting out. Look, I'm sure WWE would love to have control over everything. They won't. There will always be an independent wrestling scene. It might be weaker than it is now. It might be stronger than it is now. I'm not even sure the UK scene, frankly, has recovered from, because it peaked. It felt like it peaked many years ago. I'm not sure it's back to anywhere close to what it was before. But I think in the overall, like, wrestling independent scene globally, there will always be an independent scene. WWE will not be able to control the entire scene, but they can definitely exert some level of control over a good, portion of it, the more that they grow a program like this. So in their mind, they may love that. But do I think that's going to happen? No. I think that's one of those kind of doomsday scenarios that people are freaking out about. They're not going to be able to control the entire independent scene. And the fact is that the independent scene and the promoters, they're going to have to figure out a way to coexist because WWE is not going to stop. They're going to continue to grow this, and they're going to continue to try to exert themselves as much as they can. And for a lot of these promotions, it might make sense to partner up. But depending on what their demands are and depending on what the terms are, there might be some promotions that say, you know what, it's not worth it for us. So it's going to be very interesting to see when we get I say the devil is in the details, and we don't have all the details yet. So I'm curious to see the fine print on this, especially when it comes to this financial support that they're supposedly going to be providing to some of these talents. But they had a vision of global domination once upon a time, and they got away from it for a while. And this is sort of them, I think, adapting now all these years later. And you either play ball with them or you don't. Some people might play ball, others might not want to. I don't know what these promotions like ROW and the Black and Brave Academy, I don't know, what they had to potentially give up to partner up with WWE, or if there are any concessions, that were made. I don't know. But this is not going to stop. And so you've got to either adapt to it and work around it, or, you may not survive. But I think that as far as the independent scene overall, it's not going away. It may look a little bit different, but it's not going away. But if you're WWE, from their perspective, this is a great business move. And I'm surprised it took them this long to do it. But if it gives, and here's another aspect that we didn't talk about that I think is a big plus. You now have a situation where some of these talents that are just coming up that maybe don't have a whole lot of experience, they can allow them to work in different places and get experience in different places. But that doesn't also mean that they can't take talent they have at the PC right now and send them to Reality of Wrestling, or send them to, I don't know if Rikishi's promotion does shows, because I don't think Seth's Academy does shows. I think it's strictly just an academy. Booker's promotion, I know they do their own shows. But they can take their own talent and have them go work in other places and maybe even do some training there. It doesn't just have to be them training at the PC. I like that idea. I like the idea of them taking existing talent they have at the Performance Center right now and allowing them to go out to these 5 and maybe some other schools they partner with and go do some training there and go work some of their shows.
Well, what about something? I know Create a Pro is not on the list yet. We don't really know if they will be added. They do sporadic live shows, maybe taking some of the talent that are not deemed ready for television yet and put them on a show like Create a Pro in front of a nice sizable audience just to get that live television exposure. That's something that the PC can't offer right now.
No, and I don't know that they're running that many NXT house shows right now. So you probably have a lot of talent that are down there at the PC that might not be working shows in front of people. And that's still, in my opinion, that's still the best way for you to get experience. It's one thing to be at the PC, in the rings they're training. You can't replicate the experience of working in front of a live crowd unless you're working in front of a live crowd. And I think a lot of them were hurt also by the pandemic when everybody was working in front of nobody and no fans. And you have people down there who probably are just sitting around and they would love the opportunity to work in front of people. Maybe they're not quite ready for prime time yet. Send them to some of these promotions, even if it's 50 people, 100 people. It gives them a chance to work in front of an actual crowd and put them to work and let them actually get out there in front of an audience and work and learn, from different people instead of the same people in Orlando all the time. I look at that as a positive.
That's one of the biggest positives, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So that's what I mean when I say you can't just say it's not just, oh, this is terrible or, oh, this is great. Yeah, it's great in some ways and it's very scary in other ways. And until we see how it plays out and we get all the details, we can't, come down on one side or the other, but we can sit here and say, okay, look, there are pros and cons here. We just got to look at it fairly from both sides.
Yeah, guys, I know a lot of people were asking, where's Creator Pro? Where's Team 3D Academy? Where is Tyler Breeze and Sean Spears' school? I mean, there will probably be more schools and institutions added. This is just the first 5 that were introduced. So let's see this thing flesh out. And there obviously are pros and cons. So hopefully you guys took away from the discussion something a little bit more than what was reported on X today and what you read in the statement. So I'm excited to see where it goes, but
and as they add new schools, one thing I would love to know: do they have a set criteria for how one would qualify to be a WWE partnered academy or a WWE partnered school? So if they're going to announce a new class of 5 more schools, let's say in 6 months, what criteria did they have to meet in order to meet these? Almost like eligibility requirements. What exactly are they looking for? Do they have to be run by somebody who currently works for WWE? Or are they willing to, or like a WWE legend, or are they going to expand that out, and work with other promotions where they don't really have a connection there per se, but they deem them as, okay, this is a reliable school that we trust, run by people who know what they're doing, and then we give them the it's almost like the good housekeeping seal of approval. What's that process look like?
Well, that's the most interesting thing about the Nightmare Factory, because you say QT Marshall's the head guy there. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is there too, but how is that going to be as far as the AEW relationship with QT Marshall? Where's the conflict of interest there? How many people actually do train there from AEW? How many of them actually make it out of the school onto TV? We don't know. I mean, that's the other big thing about that specific school that's named here in the statement. So I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out of the Nightmare Factory that have appeared on AEW television, whether it's in an extra role or maybe something bigger. So we don't know what kind of impact it might have on that. My guess would be we're not going to see as much of that.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if it doesn't have any impact at all. But no, I mean, I'm curious how, as they continue to roll this out and they add more schools, like how do you figure out who qualifies for this program? What other schools or academies are going to be added to that list? What's the criteria for that? I don't think we still don't have an answer to that yet.
TK Banks in the chat says QT Marshall training guys to work for WWE while working for AEW. LOL. Yeah, I mean that's the way. I mean it's basically what it's going to look like to the QT, people on the outside.
QT, hey, he's riding high, I guess.
Yes, QT's wrestling the Costco guy on the 0 Hour Full Gear pre-show. Yeah, we're gonna eat the double chocolate chunk cookies and bring the boom. Full Gear night, huh?
You know who the Costco guys are?
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't either. So. I thought I was the only one. All right.
I don't know why they're so popular, but
yeah, I know they're very popular. I could not possibly care less.
Jason doesn't want the double chunk chocolate cookie.
No. What was that? Where'd that come from?
That's the way that they sound.
I thought you didn't know them.
Well, but they're all over social media. Of course I know who they are. I just don't want to.
Apparently,
I don't care to know who they are.
You know more about them than you let on. I thought you didn't know anything about them. I don't know anything about them. I know it's a.
They were on Jimmy Fallon. They were on Jimmy Fallon last night. Apparently.
I don't watch Jimmy Fallon.
Well, neither
so how
do
would
I.
know it's a father and son, right? Are they father and son?
Yeah, there's the two kids, the Rizzler and AJ and Big Justice.
The what? The what? The Twizzler? What'd you say?
His name is the Rizzler.
The fuck does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck that means. The Rizzler.
The Rizzler.
Yeah.
The only thing I know is that there was some interview and they did say, it was like a written interview I saw, and I think they wanted to do stuff with WWE and never got a response. So then AEW jumped in, so they're in bed now with AEW. But had they been given the chance to do stuff with WWE, they would have jumped at it. So I guess they're big wrestling fans. But yeah, what the Rizzler? What is that?
I don't know, Chad. I don't fucking know. Who wants to tell Jason what the Rizzler means? I don't know. It's what is a Rizzler? Does he do?
I don't know.
Does he do something specific to the overall vibe of what they do? I don't know.
This is on the pre-show for Full Gear?
Yes, he's wrestling QT Marshall, yes.
He's wrestling. The kid is wrestling QT Marshall.
No, the father.
Oh, the father. Okay. The father is wrestling QT Marshall. I was like, okay.
You know, they're desperate for any type of attention, man. They got the fucking Rizzler wrestling ringside there at
you know what, though?
Full Gear.
It's on the pre-show. It's fine. Whatever. Apparently, these guys are very popular, even though I don't know who they are, but I'm not the audience for it.
All right, so the chat's saying that he gets all the girls, the Rizzler. He's got game.
How old is the Rizzler? Is he like a little kid?
Jason's got to Google the Rizzler, man, to look at what the Rizzler looks like.
Let me see. Oh my god,
the kids are funny. No, they're not. I honestly, the whole family is cringe to me, but that's just my opinion. I'm sorry.
All right, AJ, Big Justice, and Rizzler. He's a little kid. He looks like he looks like that Hezbollah. You know that Hezbollah kid that I see it all over. That's what he looks like. Is that him?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. Because he looks like him a little bit. He looks like that Hezbollah kid who's like with the big muscles and everything. He looks just like him.
All right, listen. It is what it is.
He's like 7.
Yeah,
he's a ladies' man.
He's a lady. Apparently, he's a ladies' man. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm out of the loop on this.
Go Rizzle it. Oh God. All right, moving on to the Crown Jewel preview and predictions here. We will start because we just got to get through it. You know, hopefully by the end of this weekend we'll get through it. Crown Jewel triple threat, United States Championship, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, and Andrade El Idolo. This, Jason, on Friday night, I said it on X when I was very much looking forward to the match. The 7th game was the most disappointing in the entire 7-match series for both Carmelo and Andrade. Though predictable, man, did that shit fall flat on its face on Friday night, man. LA Knight, the special guest referee, he didn't even bother to take off his glasses, his belt, his vest. He did by the end of the match when he delivered BFTs to everybody. But, man, what a disappointing way to end such a tremendous 7-match series between two guys that got over in the 7 matches. That's the way that they ended it.
Yeah, but you know what? One thing I was really hoping for is that Andrade and Carmelo Hayes would have the chance to go out on a PLE and actually have a match without being interrupted by commercials. And so now they're going to have that chance. Now, LA Knight is in there as well, and I think it's going to be a really good match. But now they finally have the chance to go out there on a big show that isn't SmackDown and have a match. So I'm happy about that. I have a question, though. Have we not seen LA Knight beat both these men already on TV in individual matches?
He has.
He's beaten both of them.
Yes.
Okay, so the champion has already beaten these two men, and they've been fighting for the right to challenge for the championship again, and now LA Knight faces them both at the same time, even though he's already beaten them before. It just feels the way this played out feels very ass backwards to me. That being said, I don't see there being a title change. Despite all the matches that these two have had, I still think LA Knight walks out with a U.S. title.
I think LA Knight walks out with the United States Championship, but if I was to choose one or the other, if they did want to do a title change on Saturday, I'm going with Carmelo Hayes. I don't know. I just have a feeling that they might do that just to kind of switch things up because the way that I look at it, I mean, they really haven't lit the world on fire with LA Knight since he won the United States Championship from Logan Paul.
Yeah, well, they haven't had anything for him to really... No. They haven't had that one big feud for him to really sink his teeth into.
No. Yeah. But I'm sticking with LA Knight. I think him walking into WrestleMania as the United States Champion is what WWE probably has at the back of the mind.
I thought you just said you were going with Carmelo Hayes.
No, I'm going with LA Knight, but if I had to choose one of the two other guys, if they wanted to switch the titles, I'm going with Carmelo over Andrade.
I think you're picking two people to improve your odds here. That's not the way this works. You got to pick one person and stick to that one person.
LA Knight's going to retain the title.
Okay, good.
Fatal 4-Way, Women's Tag Team Championship. This is the team of Bianca and Jade, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green, the Damage Control ladies of Io and Kyrie, and then we have Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. Fatal 4-Way. This is not an elimination match from what I can gather here looking at the line sheet, but I am going to go with... Now, Damage Control is the obvious choice. I think a lot of people want Damage Control to win the tag team championships. But listen, I'm going to make, this is why we call it a prediction show. I'm going to make a very, very bold prediction here. I am going to go with Chelsea Green and Piper Niven to win the tag team titles.
I am going with Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair to retain. I'm going to play it safe because that's what I think is going to happen here. I mean, they just put the belts back on them not that long ago. And it just feels like this is probably not the time that they want to take them off them. I think we wait until we get a little bit closer to WrestleMania season. Because I think the play for WrestleMania is Bianca against Jade. And I don't think we're there yet where they drop the belts and create an issue between them. I think that's still a couple months away. So I predict they retain the titles here.
Have you enjoyed the way WWE has kind of taken the women's tag team division off life support and actually given it some life?
No, because have they given it life? I mean, they've tried to a little bit, but I don't really see it as being all that much more spectacular than it was before. So they've tried, but I still see it as something that's overall just DOA. And I actually think that they have taken someone in Bianca Belair and made her into
insignificant.
Less of a star she feels like than she was before. Now I know they're trying to build up Jade, but I think they did it at the expense of Bianca. And so the quicker they can kind of get to whatever the next phase of this is going to be, the better it'll be for her, because she just feels, like you said, completely. This is the most insignificant that she has ever been in her entire run on the main roster so far. And this is a woman that was in a WrestleMania main event pretty early, I would say, right? It was into her main roster run, because that was in 2021. When did she get called up? Couldn't have been that much longer before that.
Isn't she undefeated at WrestleMania? No, she has no wins at WrestleMania, does it? What was it, that the opposite Undertaker?
No, she beat Sasha. She beat.
Oh, that's right.
Becky.
Yeah. I think she's undefeated at WrestleMania then.
I believe so. And she's never felt as insignificant as she does right now.
Sasha's the one that doesn't have a WrestleMania win.
Right. Sasha. No, she got one. I think her and Naomi in their last WrestleMania appearance.
That's right. Who goes heel here? Who goes heel here between the two? You think Jade goes heel?
I think Jade goes heel. Okay. Yeah.
So they needed this match to take place on the show. I don't mind it. I think the last time these ladies were on the show in a tag team match, it wasn't that bad. And Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson being NXT mainstays, they got a crown jewel appearance for 4 weeks of television. That's pretty cool for them. So we'll see what happens. Jason's going with Jade Bianca. I'm going Chelsea and Piper Niven. Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. This is a grudge match stemming from 6 tsunamis a couple of months ago from Bronson Reed to Seth Rollins. Braun Strowman has been thrown into the mix as far as Bronson Reed and what he needed to do until Rollins got back to television. He did the same thing to R-Truth. He tsunami'd R-Truth only half the amount of times he did to Seth Rollins. But the Braun Strowman match ended in a last monster standing match with Braun Strowman winning because Rollins came back to television to really forward this feud to where we see it now. Triple H, Jason, he mentioned, or Bronson Reed rather, mentioned on Chris Van Vliet's podcast that Triple H took him to the side after the 6 tsunamis and said, "That's how you make yourself into a star. That moment will live forever." I think from that moment, I think a lot of people are looking at Bronson Reed as a major player going into 2025, which gives way to this match. We all know Rollins is a major guy. He's one of the faces of Monday Night Raw. But just from the optics of this match, after seeing Bronson Reed and how great he's been on WWE television going into this first match, there is no way humanly possible that if you're a pro wrestling promoter, that Bronson Reed is losing this match. There's no fucking way. He's got to win this match on Saturday.
Yeah, the other thing he mentioned in that interview is that he wasn't supposed to go up for 6 tsunamis.
Yes.
It was originally going to be 1 or 2. And they just sort of, and maybe they were feeding him stuff from the referees. It's not like he went into business for himself, but that was not the original plan.
I wonder how much Rollins had to do with that, too. I wonder what he said to him.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see him feeling the crowd and even if he fed something to the referee, like tell him to go up again. Because each time he went up, you could feel it in the crowd. I mean, they were reacting more and more to it. It would be booking malpractice, I think, to have him lose at Crown Jewel. I actually floated the idea on my Raw review. I'm not 100% sure we're even going to get the match. Because they gave a medical update. I mean, basically what happened on Raw last night, it was one of the few things that I really liked about the show. They had a pull-apart brawl outside in the parking lot, and it ended with Rollins being laid out. Because Reed gave him a Death Valley driver off the back of a truck through two tables that just so happened to be sitting there on the floor outside. And they left Rollins laying, and then Joe Tessitore later in the show said that his lower back was really bothering him, and he went to a local medical center, and they didn't have any update on him after that. And to me, that's one of two things. My first thought was, okay, they're giving Rollins an out for when he loses. They could say, oh, he got hurt, it's the bad back, and you're going to see, if they have the match, they're going to see Reed work on the back. And so now Rollins, when he loses, which he should, they could say, well, he wasn't 100%. Which I don't think they needed to do that. I just think it would have been fine if it was just a straight up fair fight, but okay, whatever. The reason I say I'm not sure if they're going to actually go through with the match is because the way they left it. If you look at the total number of matches on this card, including the one that, we'll get into in a bit, since it's been announced, 7 matches. That's a lot for a Triple H PLE. He doesn't like usually going beyond 5. This one has 7 matches. Do you think there's a chance that they announce this match with the idea that it's not actually going to happen? They're going to do an injury angle with Seth, and they're going to save the match, a few more weeks, and we're not getting 7, but we're going to get 6 matches?
I hope not, because this was one of the few matches on this show I was genuinely looking forward to.
Yeah, same for me. But the thought did occur to me that I wonder if that's something that they might do. They might be like, well, Rollins is not medically cleared, and the match is not going to happen, and they save it for another time. Assuming it does happen, though, Reed, I think, is going to win. I think Triple H knows that he needs this win a lot more than Seth. Seth doesn't need this win.
No.
Rollins needs this win. And they're going to run it back again, and Seth is going to win. But this first match has to go to Bronson Reed. It has to.
If Bronson Reed wins on Saturday, are we looking at a 1-2 feud over, or are we looking at a series of 3 matches here that takes us from Crown Jewel, maybe into Survivor Series, and then into Saturday night's main event? How do you see this thing playing out?
I think you look at a series of matches. Why the need to blow it off so quickly? Right? I mean, Rollins is going to need to bridge the gap between now and January.
Yeah.
If let's say the plan is Rollins and Punk, right? I don't know when that might kick off, if it's going to be the Raw Netflix debut, if it's going to be the Royal Rumble. That's not until the beginning of February. This is the perfect thing to keep Seth occupied in the meantime. And you have Reed, who's working with one of the top baby faces in the company. It's a win-win. I don't see the need to just do one match. I think you could get 3 out of it. And you could do it where Reed wins the first, Rollins wins the second, and then they have a tiebreaker. If it's me, I would even have Reed win the first 2. And then if you want to have a third, Rollins says, one more, give me one more shot. And then he beats him in the end. But either way, I think you can get 3 matches out of it.
Maybe some sort of stipulation match. I know we just seen an ambulance match between Chase U, Andre Chase, and Rich Holland on NXT's Halloween Havoc. Maybe some sort of stipulation match for these two for the last match in the series. I don't know.
Yeah, not last man standing, like a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Yep.
I think would be a good stipulation. I thought maybe they were going to have a cage match was the other stipulation I thought maybe they would do with him and Braun Strowman. If not last man standing. So yeah, something like a cage match to keep them contained, or Falls Count Anywhere, I think would make sense.
Kevin Owens and Randy Orton was announced on Friday in a great segment between Randy Orton and Triple H to open the show from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn on Friday night. Kevin Owens obviously frustrated. He's angry. He's heartbroken that he watched his friend Cody Rhodes kind of team with Roman Reigns and just battle alongside the guy that caused him heartache and problems for the last 4 years. And then obviously Randy Orton, he felt like Kevin Owens did. Randy Orton chose Cody over him, and that's why we are where we are today. KO's anger obviously spilled over. He attacked Cody Rhodes at the end of Bad Blood. He did the same thing to Randy Orton a few weeks back. And at Crown Jewel, they will have a one-on-one match after Randy Orton begged Triple H to give it to him. And it was the situation, Jason, where Triple H was trying to save Randy Orton from himself. He said, you don't want this match. You don't want this match. I'm looking out for you. And he basically kind of built Kevin Owens up as the most dangerous man in WWE. It's like, oh my God, man, what's going on?
He was like a super villain or something, like the Terminator, man. The way he was talking this guy up, it was amazing.
So Kevin Owens is now a ruthless thug, and Randy Orton's going to get this match one-on-one. I do not expect Randy Orton to get the win here, because I know you've documented it. We've talked about it here on TNT. Randy Orton has not won a major PLE match in a very long time. I don't see
he's not won a PLE match all year.
All year. That's a very, very long time. And that's probably going to be the one thing that kind of breaks him to a point where it's going to kickstart the Cody and Randy feud when the time comes. I can't see Kevin Owens winning clean either. I know Randy and the back issues, obviously, are the reason why he was out for 18 months. The bloodline put him out. Triple H even made a mention of it, and I don't think that Triple H is going to make a mention of something like that on television if it's not going to come into play. He could be targeting the back. Kevin Owens, I do think, is going to win this match. I don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, 3 clean because of the back, or if he's going to cheat to win, but I'm taking Kevin Owens to win here, and I think he's going to beat Randy Orton on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is either a Kevin Owens win, or we're looking at some kind of like a no contest disqualification where he just snaps and referee kind of throws the match out. Look, we've seen in the past Kevin Owens has powerbombed people on the edge of the ring. And if he wants to target the back of Randy Orton and try to break his back, he might give him an apron powerbomb, and maybe the match just ends. You know, you don't even have to do a proper finish. He just sort of loses his mind, and he tries to break his back all over again. And that at least would kind of get over what Triple H was trying to, because he was being very over the top with it. Like, oh, I'm doing it for your safety. And I have never seen this look in his eyes that I've seen before. And I'm like, you would think that this man took a hammer to, Cody Rhodes, and he took a sledgehammer to Randy Orton. He beat them up. We see people get beat up on this show every single week. So he would have to really do something dastardly, I feel like. And that would fit his MO, because that's what he used to do to people all the time. So maybe an apron powerbomb. And he certainly, if he doesn't pin Randy, I think he'll be standing and Randy won't be when it's over.
I agree. I think a referee stoppage makes sense here. I could see that absolutely taking place, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I said on Friday, this is the one story to me in all of WWE that's got the biggest interest from my point of view. I think this is, to me, bigger than the Bloodline. I'm more interested than the Bloodline story in this.
Well, they took a very unique approach with it as far as the Kevin Owens attack. After the last show, after Bad Blood off camera in the parking lot, everybody's out there filming with their phones, and they wouldn't even air the footage on TV that first week. And Triple H said, no, we're going to handle it internally. It's a different approach that WWE typically doesn't do. And Kevin has been sending in promos and videos ever since. I was surprised that they actually added the match to the show, to be honest with you, because I thought after that last Kevin Owens promo where he said, I don't know when or if you're going to see me again, I thought that was their way of keeping him off television for a few weeks and delaying the inevitable match and skipping Crown Jewel and then maybe doing it at Survivor Series. So that surprised me that they're just bringing Owens back this quickly. But yeah, I can't see Randy Orton just beating him. I just don't know what purpose that would serve.
No, Kevin Owens is going to win, and I'm going to be very interested to see what they do personally there. Crown Jewel Championship for the women. Liv Morgan and Nia Jax. Now, this is a matchup between two heels, which is not particularly exciting.
Oh, joy. Yeah, this is great.
I know. I can't wait to see the indifference from the Saudi crowd. Jax obviously has Tiffany Stratton in her corner. Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio in her corner. Stratton, we've seen tease the cash-in several times, and we don't even know if she's going to be there or not, but I'm assuming they'll tease another cash-in on Tiffany Stratton for sure. And Rhea Ripley obviously is going to play a factor in this match in some way, shape, or form. I'm assuming she'll be there to run in at some point, so don't be surprised to see her run in. But as far as the ending to this goes, Jason, I could see Rhea Ripley costing either Liv Morgan or Tiffany Stratton, costing Nia Jax. I think I'm going to go with the way of, I'm going to say Liv is going to win because Tiffany might want to cash in and there's some sort of distraction there, and I think that distracts Nia, and Liv gets the upset victory over Nia Jax and becomes the first ever women's Crown Jewel champion. And we don't get a cash in, by the way. I don't think Tiffany's going to cash in tonight on Saturday night.
Yeah. That was my exact prediction. Although the reason I'm picking Liv, I have a different reason for picking Liv, and it ties into the next match, which we may as well just talk about that now, which is the other crown jewel match: Cody Rhodes and Gunther, champion against champion. Neither title on the line. We have a brand new title on the line that I don't know that anybody really cares about. But boy, they're giving it the white glove treatment every single show. What are they talking? 50 carats in this thing, the big green belt.
It's like it's like being protected by fucking the FBI and CIA agents.
Secret Service is just taking it around. I mean, this thing is like the Hope Diamond, man. You can't get within 50 feet of this thing. But I just feel like most people are just completely apathetic towards it. I think the match itself is going to be really good. I wish I could bring myself to be more excited for it. I can't. But I cannot envision Gunther and Nia Jax winning. Because the last time they were in Saudi Arabia, they both won King and Queen of the Ring. And I just find it impossible to believe that on the very next show, they're going to have, again, two heels, but the same people are going to win these crown jewel titles. But because I think Gunther is winning this match, that's why I went with Liv Morgan in the other one. Because that one really could go either way, but I just cannot envision a scenario where Gunther and Nia win again on the same show.
That's a good way to look at it, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, would you not be surprised by that if they had Gunther and Nia?
I wouldn't. No. I don't see them doing that. Honestly, I think that's ridiculous to have that happen back in May, and then you're going to do the same thing in November. No.
Yeah, no. I cannot imagine that. So I think Gunther's going to win, and I think it's going to be because Kevin Owens is going to show his face, and whether or not he gets physically involved or he just shows up and there's a distraction, I think he's going to factor into this finish in some way. I thought of something else here too, because I feel like you got to tie Randy Orton into this somehow. And I know we were talking about Owens doing something dastardly to Randy and maybe the match gets thrown out. Assuming that Randy is not totally incapacitated, I could also see a situation where Owens comes out and then Randy comes out to go after Owens, but Randy inadvertently hits Cody or bumps into Cody. Something happens that costs Cody the crown jewel title. Now you've given a reason for Cody to have some sort of a beef here with Randy Orton. And now everybody ends up just hating each other. So I think something like that is going to play out. It's going to end up benefiting Gunther, and I think he's going to be the first crown jewel champion.
Now, Gunther's last PLE was against Damian Priest. There was an interference by Finn Balor, which cost Damian Priest the world championship. Obviously, Gunther's now the world heavyweight champion. Would that be a little kind of peculiar, for lack of a better term, to see Gunther 2 PLEs in a row win by some sort of outside interference when he's the type of guy that goes into a match and just kind of decimates his opponent, wins clean, moves on to the next, and no rhyme or reason, right?
No, it's not surprising at all, because there's a difference between him going in there with someone on the mid card or even upper mid card and beating them clean. Even a Sami Zayn, who's a main event guy, but is he a main event guy in the same way that Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns is? No. So him going in there and beating someone like Sammy or Chad Gable clean or Sheamus clean is very different. They're not going to want to do that with Cody Rhodes. And plus, Cody is the WWE champion. And this is one of the reasons I hate doing matches like this, because neither one of these guys should lose, especially if their title is not on the line. I don't want to see either of these guys take a pinfall loss here on this show. I think it's ridiculous. But this is what they did. They painted themselves, they may not look at it that way, but they painted themselves into a corner here. So I can't see Gunther beating him clean. But the other reason I wouldn't be shocked if there was interference of some kind, I pointed this out last night. The last 2 weeks on Raw, I think every single match, and we haven't had that many, I think in the last 2 weeks there have been maybe 8 matches on Raw total. Every match, I think, but one. I think the one last night with Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus has ended with some sort of interference or distraction. And it's becoming a real problem, because I understand sometimes you have to do it to build to whatever the PLE match is going to be. But that's ridiculous, okay? Every match but one in the last 2 weeks on that show ends with some kind of interference. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, there is an overabundance of interference, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's being kind. And so if there was some kind of interference or distraction here, No, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And that's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, this is going to be a great match. I think they really kind of, I don't want to say salvaged because I don't think anything can be salvaged here, but they really kind of addressed Cody's terrible promo last week with Gunther's great face-to-face on SmackDown this week, where he honestly cooked Cody Rhodes. Let's be honest. Cody's out there.
He said nothing wrong.
I got to win this for my daughter, he says. I'm like, you just won the WWE Championship for your daughter. What the fuck do you care about this thing for?
Everything I said last week, Gunther went out there in that promo and said the exact same thing. He goes, what are you bringing up your daughter for? Your daughter has nothing to do with this. He goes, you always find a way to bring the people closest to you into this. And he brought up, like, I want the John Cena schedule. So now he's tying himself to John Cena. He's tying himself to this person. He said, I want to win the Crown Jewel Championship because I'm the best wrestler in the world. And I'm like, fuck yeah, that's a great, you don't need any more excuse than that, But everything he was saying in the promo, I found myself nodding and agreeing. And the crowd did too, because there were a couple of things that Gunther said that the crowd popped for. Like, you know what? He's right. We agree with him. And then what was Cody's response at the end? How did Cody respond? He punched him in the face. He resorted to violence. This is your babyface champion. He had no comeback for anything this man said, so I'll just punch him in the face.
Yeah, he did the great drop down Dustin Rhodes punch that he usually does.
Because if you're ever in a real fight, that's what you're gonna do. You're gonna drop down on your fucking back and then throw a punch up at the guy. Yeah.
Yes, they did have a very good back and forth, and Gunther, whoever helped Gunther pen that promo deserves a raise. So I thought that was fantastic stuff. One person we will not be seeing in this match, ladies and gentlemen, because I know there was a lot of people online and WrestleVotes tweeted out something, or so it came from somewhere, but Bill Goldberg has been in the news. I don't really care to see Bill Goldberg on television, but he has been in the news. He will not be interfering in this match, costing Gunther the Crown Jewel Championship match. Now, there's an update on Bill Goldberg. WrestleVotes did say that, yes, I don't know for sure, but there are plans for WWE and Bill Goldberg in the future. Now, WWE has plenty of spots to do this rumored match between Goldberg and Gunther, Saturday night's main event, Survivor Series, even the Royal Rumble. I don't care to see it on any one of those shows, but if you want to build Gunther up, I guess we could think of a lot worse for WWE to do. But there's an update on this, Jason. Apparently, on Friday afternoon, November 1st at 12 noon, Bill Goldberg will be inducted into the Florida Georgia Hall of Fame. The city of Jacksonville announced on Tuesday that Bill Goldberg, the former University of Georgia defensive tackle who helped the Bulldogs win 3 of 4 games against the Gators, will be amongst the 2024 inductees into the Games Hall of Fame on Friday, November 1st. So it may be a very, very small window for him to fly from Jacksonville to Saudi Arabia and Riyadh and then interfere in this match. But there is a small rumor that Goldberg could potentially start a program after Crown Jewel is over on Raw, because Raw is taking place on Sunday, taped in Riyadh for Monday. Maybe Goldberg shows up on Monday, and maybe we get Goldberg versus Gunther at Survivor Series for the World Heavyweight Championship. None of this is confirmed. It's just hearsay for now. But what do you think of all this Goldberg nonsense hitting the social media feeds?
Not a fan, number one. Because if we're talking about Goldberg and Gunther, what are we talking about? We're talking about a World Heavyweight Championship match.
I want my shot, pal.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had enough of those. So, yeah, I don't care to see it. I could see where some people, there would be an appeal. If they need an opponent for him before they do Gunther and Damian Priest, which is the rumored Saturday night's main event match, that's not until mid-December, which would leave Survivor Series open. I don't know what their plan is for CM Punk at Survivor Series. I know there was talk about him maybe challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. That, to me, is another one of those situations where it's like you're kind of painting yourself into a corner here, unless you really think they're going to put the belt on Punk, which I don't think they are. So I don't know how realistic that match is. If they don't do Gunther and Punk, there's no obvious match for Gunther, although, hey, Dominic did beat Damian Priest last night.
Oh, please.
Right? He had to prove that he could beat a former World Heavyweight Champion if he wanted to get consideration from Adam Pearce for a title shot, and he pinned him. Now, of course, he pinned him, and then he got his fucking ass kicked immediately after that, and the show went off the air with the guy who just lost smiling. So what a win for Dominic, but he did win. So I am kind of I don't want to say that I think it's a Survivor Series, championship main event caliber worthy match, but the idea of Gunther going in there and just chopping the freaking soul out of this kid and beating the crap out of him is very appealing to me. And I'm just debating in my head if I would rather see that. I think I would. I think I would rather see that. Him just going in there and murdering Dominic. See Gunther and Goldberg. It just doesn't do anything for me. I guess some people might see it as a marquee match. It doesn't matter either way. I just sort of see it as a stepping stone to the eventual match with Priest, which I guess if they're not going to do it at Survivor Series, then they could do it, again on Saturday night's main event. My suggestion from a few weeks ago, I think I mentioned it here on TNT, you could get a Saturday night's main event match out of Goldberg and Gunther. Like that could be an attraction for NBC that night. And you could do Gunther and Priest at Survivor Series.
That's the way I would do it personally.
Yeah, I mean that's what I thought they might be doing, but I guess they could flip it and do it in reverse. I mean, it doesn't matter. He's going to go in there, he's going to get paid, he's going to get beat, and then we're not going to see him again after that. So, whatever.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know when this Dominic match is going to happen. It could happen on Monday night for all we know, and then Goldberg comes out.
It'll probably be a TV match.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But I would totally do that. I would do Priest and Gunther at Survivor Series because Priest right now is in the middle of nothing. I think this Judgment Day, the entire Judgment Day faction is ice cold. I think this is the worst rendition of the Judgment Day so far. They got no heat, and I think the Rhea and Liv storyline is even fizzling out. So I think you do Priest and Gunther at Survivor Series, and then you possibly do Goldberg and Gunther at Saturday Night's Main Event on NBC. I think that's something that could potentially play out. So we'll keep a close eye on that. That's 6 matches, but according to Jason in the spoilers, which I haven't read yet, there is a match that is seemingly official for the show, and it's Bloodline, Roman and the Usos, the original Bloodline, against the new Bloodline of, I guess, Solo. To me, I haven't read it yet. Solo, Jacob, and Tamatonga, and leaving poor Tangaloa outside of the ring and doing nothing.
Well, I don't know about that because it's listed right now. It's not really a spoiler anymore because on WWE.com on the Crown Jewel page, that's right there at the top. They added it. I guess after what happened on Raw last night, the way that last segment was left, where Jimmy said to Jay, "Okay, see, I told you, family only. It's got to be you, me, and Roman." And then Jay was like, okay, or yeet, or whatever he said. He speaks in riddles now. I guess that was sort of the official confirmation, and then they posted it after that. But it's a 6-man tag. They don't specify in the listing who the 3 members of the Bloodline are going to be because all 4 of them are in the graphic. I guess Jacob is good to go to travel there, I guess. So we don't know what combination it's going to be. Obviously, Solo. I have to think Jacob will be in there, and then Tamatonga, and then you leave Tongaloa on the outside to just, whatever, look dumb, take a bump, whatever.
Yeah.
I logically look at this and go, if you're going to get a War Games match, you don't have the baby faces go over here in this match because then you have no need to do a War Games match. So you have to have the new Bloodline, the Timu Bloodline, you have to have them go over here in this match.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so that's the only outcome to me that really makes sense.
I mean, tit for tat. Jay got his title taken from him by the Bloodline. Jay ruined the Bloodline for the tag team title, so I would say the Bloodline gets their win back at Saudi.
And because of the way things played out on Raw last night with Sami Zayn, and he's another one. If they do this match, I can't imagine that he's not on the show because he's always so beloved over there. I'm sure they would want him on there. But I could see him factoring in some, because they're telling a very interesting story now where we don't know whose side he's on necessarily. The last we saw of him last night, he was having a conversation in the parking lot outside with Solo Sikoa about what we don't know. Might he show up? And then they play it where it's like, well, whose side is he on? What's he going to do? Because Roman and the Usos are going in undermanned. Even if it's a 6-man tag, if you have all 4 of them there, it's essentially 4-on-3. I just don't see them winning this match. I think that the new Bloodline has to win, put more heat on them, and that then leads into whatever the direction is going to be for War Games, which I imagine, is Roman, Jimmy J, and Sammy against the new bloodline.
Yeah, I said on my Raw review last night, I'm glad that they're actually taking a different approach to include Sammy in this thing instead of just saying, hey, he was the honorary Uce. We're going to put him with these guys and we're going to get a War Games match. That's the easy way to do it. Why not flesh a nice story out where, like last night, Jay said, you're not family. Sammy took that to heart. Jimmy wanted to go talk to him. And by the time he went to go talk to him, he was shown in the parking lot talking to Solo Sikoa. Who approached who? How did that all come about? Nobody knows. He just walked into it. So I said last night, Roman makes everything feel important because he's Roman Reigns. Jey Uso is his own man. Jimmy now is back, and he's back with his brother, and we got that bond tied together again. But with Sammy involved, there's no better man than Sami Zayn because where the others don't bring it, Sammy brings a different level of emotion to the entire storyline. And I think when Sammy is included, the overall emotion in the storyline is going to be taken to the next level because when he was there, it started out fun and games, and he was the honorary Uce. He was looking for his T-shirt. He wanted to be acknowledged. And then he saw the manipulation tactics, and he started to see how the inner workings of the bloodline worked. And then we got that incredible moment at the Royal Rumble where he turned on Roman, and then he got beat up with Kevin Owens. That's the emotion I'm talking about. That's the emotion he brings to the storyline. So I'm glad that they're taking this route. But for you, Jason, what did you think about the way that they went about it? Were you surprised that they took that route? And how do you think all of that came about? Was it Sammy going up to Solo, or was it Solo going up to Sammy? Because the way that I envisioned it was Solo is obviously playing games and he's playing mind games with Sami Zayn, but Sammy wants to see what Jay is talking about firsthand because he said last night he's worse than Roman, and Sammy doesn't believe that. So now maybe Sammy wants to see that firsthand and wants to kind of get into the lion's den and see what Jay is actually talking about, believe it firsthand, and then join the bloodline. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I see it as maybe a case where Sammy, whoever approached who first, but Sammy is basically trying to tell him, look, because he told this to Jay in the promo earlier in the show, you don't have to be a part of this. Like, this doesn't involve you. You're your own man now. Like, this is not your fight. This is not your battle. And maybe he was trying to tell Solo that, like, look, your issues are with Roman, right? He's a piece of crap. You don't have to involve Jay in this. He's doing his own thing. He's got no dog in this fight. So maybe it was that kind of conversation that Jay may not feel that way. But maybe it's as simple as that. But I like it because we don't know. And like you said, it would have been freaking lazy for them to just add him to the match. So this adds another wrinkle to it, and we got a month to go until Survivor Series, which means 4 weeks of television where they have to keep our interest level up for this. We may not get Sammy officially linking up with the baby faces if he's going to be in the War Games match until like the very last minute. They could milk this story until the very last minute and then have him, in that match on their side. And keep people guessing for the next few weeks and give us more of these bloodline segments with Sammy and Jay or Sammy and Roman. The bloodline, I argue, was at its absolute peak when they had Sami Zayn as the honorary Uce. When they were referring to him as the honorary Uce, he got the shirt and everything, and he was out there with them, cracking him up on TV every week. That was when the bloodline reached its peak. So him being back in the storyline, I love, because that's when I found it to be the most entertaining. And you got television that episodic television here that you have to build week to week. You've got to try to make this interesting. You can't just keep giving us Solo Sikoa bloodline beatdowns every single week. You got to have more than that. And here you've got a lot of history and story between Sammy and all of these guys. So why not tap into that and keep people guessing? I wasn't expecting it. It caught me off guard, but I'm really happy they're doing it. And curious to see if he shows up on Saturday, because I would be surprised if he's not in Saudi at all on that show. I mean, do you think he'll at least make an appearance?
He will be. I think he will be there.
Yeah.
Is Kevin Owens going to play a factor in thinking along the lines of, well, Cody teamed with Roman, now I got my best friend teaming with Roman in the bloodline against the Solo bloodline? Is that going to factor into anything Kevin Owens is thinking in his storyline?
Well, I joked about it. I said, boy, Kevin Owens is going to be really pissed when he sees Sami Zayn talking to Solo, because it's going to kind of set him off. But no, he's got his own thing going. Like, do I think he's going to attack Sami? I don't. I don't think they're going to mix the two stories. I said it more in a joking way last night. But no, I don't see him factoring into this in any any kind of meaningful way, unless they share if they're backstage at the same event, like on Saturday, if they're both there, maybe they bump into each other in the back, but I don't see Owens getting involved in this story.
What did you think of the ending to SmackDown in New York with the Motor City Machine Guns? I guess we'll end with this. We're both going with the Renegade Bloodline, the new Bloodline led by Solo Sikoa in this match, if it does take place on Saturday night. What did you think of the Motor City Machine Guns?
The Great Value Bloodline.
The Great Value Bloodline, yes.
Yeah. Got a few different names. Wish Bloodline, Timu Bloodline.
Yeah, Timu Bloodline, yeah.
Yeah.
The Motor City Machine Guns winning the tag team championships on Friday night. It was met with great praise, because who doesn't like the Motor City Machine Guns? Sabin and Shelley, just unbelievable performers. Respected.
Apparently, a lot of people, based on social media, don't like the Motor City Machine Guns. The fact that they won the belts.
Well, I mean, because they want to go and compare it to everything else, and then we're at the forefront of, these guys said this over here, but this is okay when WWE does it. It's fucking, you can't escape it. We loved it. For obvious reasons, we loved it. The tag team championships didn't really mean anything on the Bloodline. They took them off the Bloodline to forward a revenge storyline angle for Jey Uso getting his championship, the Intercontinental title, taken away from him. And that was because of Jacob Fatu. Not even because of Solo Sikoa, because Solo Sikoa moved Jey out of the way from the Braun Breaker Spear, and Jacob Fatu looked at Solo. You didn't do it. I'm going to do it. I don't give a shit what you said. So he ruined it. Jey got his title taken away. Jey showed up on Friday night. Was it rushed? Sure. I didn't expect the Bloodline Motor City Machine Guns match to happen on Friday night and the same night they won the number one contendership, but it did. So Jey was there, and he helped Motor City Machine Guns win the tag team championships, and he got his revenge. I don't see what the problem is. We got the tag team championships off a team that wasn't doing anything with them. They were basically props. Also, we established the Motor City Machine Guns as a top act in a new company that a lot of people don't know who they are or what they're about. Now they look important because they're the tag team champions. And Jey Uso got his revenge. So, Jason, we played out three different aspects on WWE TV, and it made sense, all the logic in the world, and people still found some ways to complain about what they did. What did you think of this, and why did people go so heavy in the criticism?
Well, because I think there is fair criticism here. So you can't sit there and say that there was people finding ways to hate it. There's no reason to hate it. You had a team come in that it took 18 years for them to get to WWE. You could have taken the time to tell the story of, okay, it took 18 years for these guys to make it here. And now they have one goal in mind, which is to win these tag team titles and then play it out over a period of months. You could have told that story and taken the time to do that. Absolutely. I also think that they were absolutely overshadowed at the end there because the focus was clearly on the Bloodline stuff. I mean, they got their little pyro celebration, then they were gone, and then it was, immediately to Jey Uso in the ring. And the big takeaway from the end of the show wasn't even that they won the tag team titles. It was that Jimmy and Jey reunited and they hugged in the middle of the ring. So anybody who wants to criticize it for those reasons, fair play. I think that those are valid criticisms that you could say if you did not like the end of the show. That being said, I loved it. I loved it. That was not enough to get me to sit here and complain and hate on what they did because I was this is a situation that I just never imagined that we would see to begin with. Think of where we were at the beginning of this year. When TNA rebranded all of their belts, they got all new belts, and then Scott D'Amore was taking pictures with everybody with their belts. I think the Machine Guns were two people he took pictures with. That's how we started this year. And now, if you would have told me that before the year was over, they would be the tag team champions on SmackDown, I would have said, pass the pipe. Okay? This doesn't seem realistic. So, on a personal level, as I look at these two and I know their story and how long it took them to get here, I'm happy. I'm genuinely happy for these two. And they're not old men, but they aren't young either. And so it's like, okay, they've took them a long time to get here. Now they're here. So they put the belts on them. And now they're going to be kind of the flag bearers of that tag team division. This automatically now puts them in the mix with the Street Profits. And we saw them beat DIY, but we may see them wrestle them again in the future. The problem is, as I look ahead, because you got to take yourself out of the moment and say, okay, now what? They have a tall order ahead of them because there's not much of a tag team division. This was the peak. They won the belts. Great. But, okay, now where do they go? Who are all the challengers that are going to occupy them now for the next 6-9 months? You got the Street Profits. Maybe they end up going heel. They tried turning them heel, and the crowd didn't want to boo them, so I don't know if they're going to try that again. And Montez Ford sounds frustrated that he's not getting more opportunities, which I wholeheartedly agree with him on. You got DIY, you've got Waller and Theory, who have been on the verge of breaking up for about fucking 12 months now. They still haven't pulled the trigger on that. What other teams outside of the Bloodline, what other teams are we looking at right now on SmackDown that you could think of? Who are we missing?
Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews.
Try again.
Well, we don't even know if DIY is going to be a team because they kind of tease something going on there. I don't know.
Legado, I guess. We got Legado,
yeah,
right?
Legado, yeah.
Okay, fine. Legado del Fantasma. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Los Garza.
I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It's sad. The tag team scene right now, especially on Fridays, it's sad. And if you were to combine all of the teams between Monday and Friday, you'd actually have a pretty
They'd have a very good division, yes.
Yeah. So individually, it just doesn't work. So I do worry about that, right? I'm happy for them, but I do worry now about where they go from here. But as a moment, we were talking about Joe Hendry earlier and Bound for Glory. Sometimes you got to live in the moment, and that was a very cool moment. And they got a much better reaction. They had a much better match than they did in their debut because you didn't have all the traffic of it being a three-way. I enjoyed it. I worry now about where they go from here. But the titles were tools. They were props in the Bloodline story. Same thing with the Intercontinental title. I know Rikishi went on his podcast, and of course he was very upset that they took the title away from Jay, the Yeet Man. He was complaining about that. I honestly, it boggles my mind because Jimmy, Jay, and Solo are all his sons. They are all over these shows. Monday, Friday, this Saturday, they're probably going to be in the main event, right? They may close the show with that. They're all over the shows. And he's complaining. Like, I get that, like, he's his dad. And he says, like, no, I'd be saying this even if he wasn't my son. Yeah, bullshit. Okay? He's upset because it's his son. He's looking out for his boy. But he's got 3 boys. They're all over these shows. He should be on cloud 9 right now. He should be so happy. His whole family is dominating the shows every single week. I don't know why he's complaining. But the Intercontinental title on Jay, it was never meant to be a long-term thing. The tag team titles in the Bloodline, same thing. This was always going to end up being the plan here going into War Games. They're going back and forth. Oh, you screwed me out of my title. I'm going to screw you out of yours. They were props. The Bloodline, like you said, they don't need the titles. It's not about championships. It's about family. That whole story is all about family. What did Jay say to Sammy last night? You're not family. You wouldn't know. That's what that story is about. So you're bang on about that. They don't need titles. But you can't sit there and say there's no valid criticism for rushing the belts onto the machine guns. I think there is some valid criticism of it. It just didn't bother me that much.
How could Jason forget? Yes, boy. Pretty deadly.
You got me on that. You got me on that.
See,
Are they doing another concert?
I hope not. WWE had a great opportunity to flesh out this tournament that happened on both shows. We got the War Raiders versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Whoever wins that tag team title match, I would do a tag team title versus tag team title thing at Crown Jewel if they had time to do it, honestly.
So you want to create another set of useless titles and have a non-title match for another Crown Jewel championship?
Merge the titles, unify.
They're not going to do that, though. They're not going to do that.
Judgment Day and Motor City Machine Guns. That'd be a banger match.
I'm sure it would be, but why would they do that?
Makes too much sense.
They went out and they created brand new belts. They separated the belts. To do that would be an admission of failure on their part. They're not going to do that.
Oh, well.
They're not going to admit that they never should have separated the titles to begin with because the divisions on either show individually were not strong enough. But they'll never admit that.
I know. It's wishful thinking. Anyway, thank you guys very much for a great show. We got almost 1,000 likes. We got another 150 likes before we get to 1,000. And we're about to get into your super chats, guys. I appreciate you very much.
Hey, guess who won?
Yeah, Yankees won 11-4, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Bats actually woke up tonight.
Hopefully they didn't just exhaust all of their runs in one game.
We'll see. Another game is tomorrow, 8 o'clock, head-to-head with Dynamite. Fright Night Dynamite.
I'm sure Tony kind of thrilled.
Can't wait. Ladies and gentlemen, please follow us on social media and on YouTube. Everything you need is linked down below in the description of this video. And if you guys would love to let us know how you're feeling about everything we talked about today, man, a comment goes a long way. No matter what it is. You can leave me your favorite emoji. It doesn't matter. YouTube calculates all this, and it helps push the podcast out to new eyes and new ears. So make sure you guys leave a comment down below.
You talk about the Rinsler if you want to. Or the
Rizzler.
Is it the Rizzler? What'd I say?
What'd you say? The Rinsler?
No, I said Rinsler.
Rinsler.
I thought it was it's the Rizzler.
The Twizzler.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you can talk about the
double chocolate chunk cookie, yeah. And AJ and Big Justice, which, I mean, God bless them over there, man. I don't know what they're doing, but that's on the pre-show. Tone C, 20 months. I guess this is for JD. Would Slipknot be considered dad rock? It makes sense since I grew up listening to my dad's music, and I'd be about his age. Tone C, no, Slipknot is not dad music. Corey Taylor, who is the lead singer for Slipknot, has his band Stone Sour. That is dad rock. Slipknot is not dad rock. Michelle Moran with a $5 super chat. If Kevin Owens is losing his mind over Cody and Randy supposedly betraying him, imagine if you see Sammy joining one of the bloodlines. And well, we talked about that. We don't think it's going to kind of cross paths because Kevin Owens is doing his own thing, but Sammy's got enough history with the bloodline where it makes sense for him to be there for sure.
No, I could see them bumping into each other like a one-off backstage segment. Yeah. I don't see their stories crossing over where, they're going to get involved in each other's program.
Black Wolf Inc. with a $5 super chat. Could Tala Tonga be debuting a crown jewel to give Solo's team the victory and set up war games where Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins will help Roman win?
It's just such a terrible name.
Black Wolf, no. It's going to be 4-on-4.
Tala Tonga.
Yeah. No news on Hikuleo. Who knows where he's going to end up? Tone C with a 20. Thank you, brother. Let's go. Salamonster, it was cool hearing my name on the sound off, even if it was someone else. But Tone is short for Antonio. My friends and coworkers call me that.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Thank you, Tone C.
Thank you, Tone.
Sidro with a $2 super chat. PW Insider says Goldberg not at Crown Jewel and Vince McMahon has a new company. Well, we talked about both of those things, Sidro, tonight. Thank you, man. Caden Crawford with a 1 month. Thank you, Caden. 1 month in the OTS fam. JD, do you respect the prodigy? I have EO winning the Rumble, Charlotte, the Chamber, have her earn a championship match for once. Well, yes, I would love to see Charlotte earn something via wins on television instead of coming in and just asking for it and getting it. But I am making a bold prediction. Charlotte probably is the favorite to win the Royal Rumble, but I could see Jordan Grace winning the Royal Rumble and going after Rhea Ripley and having that match take place at WrestleMania. Rhea versus Jordan Grace. She needs something substantial. That's why I'm kind of thinking along the lines of what can we get Rhea in that feels important. That would
that's why I also mentioned the match with Dominic.
That too. I just want to see that die, though, personally.
Well, I mean, it could die at WrestleMania.
So could Dom.
I think he would die if you put him in the ring with Rhea. Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be the payoff.
Joey Clemenza with a 20. Count me in, he says. We got 8 out of 20. We got 8 out of 20 in the goal. So if you guys want to get on in, we can definitely get that up to 20. Joey, thank you, brother. Moretz with a 28 months. No message. Thank you, man. Ravin Diesel with a new membership. Thank you. Wilhelm Hendrick Fuller with 46 months. Hi, JD. Love you, my brother. Will always support your work. And Jason, thank you for making TNT awesome with JD. My support is forever.
Thank you, brother. I hope you enjoy the show.
One in the chat if you're happy to see Jason back on the channel after the last 7 days. Just curious to see what you guys are thinking. We got 2100 still in here. King Ellie Show with a 499. Who is your favorite to win the Women's Rumble? Mine is Io. Well, Io is definitely up there. Charlotte's got to be considered a favorite. She will be back imminently. I'm going with Jordan Grace as a real out there pick for sure, because I know she is definitely going to end up in WWE.
Yeah, I think right now Charlotte is the favorite.
Yeah.
If not Charlotte, I would love to see Io go over.
Me too. I think that would be great. Lewis with a 20. Yo, what's up, my guys? OTS for life. Thank you, Lewis. Always good to see you, brother. David Thiering with a $20 super chat. How's it going, JD and Solo? Count me in as far as contributing on this super chat goal. Nothing else to say about Freddie Freeman except right now he is him. Hashtag TNT. Well, he didn't do enough tonight to give the Dodgers a sweep, but maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Always got to look out for Freddie Freeman, man. He's such a great fucking hitter. I miss him.
Well, I mean, also, like, nobody says a bad word about him. Like, everybody talks about what a great teammate he is and just like a nice guy. Like somebody you would want to root for.
Yeah. Jason Barker with a $100 super chat. Jason, thank you very much, man. Let's get it done in the OTS venue tonight. I love everyone. He says, F. Dax Softwood, Joey Janela, and Vince McMahon's future project, and let's hold WWE, the IWC, and AEW accountable. For what? We're here doing our thing. Everybody can kiss my ass. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate you as always, brother. Tommy Brannigan with a 33 months. Hey, GD, Jason, love the show. Hope you guys are having a great week. Same to you, Tommy.
You too, always. Man. Thank you, Tommy.
Keith Hobson with a 20. He says, number 6, OTS for life. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate you, brother. James Gender with a 10. What's this rumor about Vince starting a new company with legends? Vince is, listen, I can't trust anything Vince is going to do, but Vince is not doing another pro wrestling promotion, guys. So don't think about him working with legends or what you heard on social media from someone tweeting engagement farming. Vince is not getting back into pro wrestling. Judgment Day, Mike Harper with the $2 super chat. 10-woman tag team match next week on NXT. Sounds like a fucking mess.
Yeah. Well, I saw that. Apparently on one side, I think it's going to be Julia, Stephanie, I think Zarya, and Jordan Grace. I think all on the same side.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like a fucking all-star team.
They're going all out, man. Yeah, they're going all out for this show next week. They're not going to take this lying down here. They want to make sure they put their best foot forward up against Dynamite.
Well, I mean, what is Tony Khan got on Wednesday night? It seemingly looks like he's blown through everything.
Well, I mean, if we're going to get a 10-woman tag, we're going to get a fucking 15-man tag on Dynamite. That's what we're going to get. We're going to get the conglomeration, and they're going to team up with, I don't know, the Outrunners and 2 other people, and then on the other side, it'll just be a whole array of just different heels that they throw together. Maybe I don't know, but I'm sure he'll try to make something even bigger and better.
Boots with a $20 super chat and no message. Thank you, Boots.
Love Boots. Yeah, thank you, Boots.
Alex with a 20. Brother JD and Solo, RVD on today's NXT says he will be at next week's NXT special at the ECW Arena. Do you guys expect the show to be packed with past ECW stars and maybe run-in segments with current NXT stars? Sorry, AEW, LOL.
Exactly what I said earlier. You have the ECW alumni on there, and you have them rubbing shoulders with the NXT talent. That's the way I would use them.
I think someone in the chat said it's going to be RVD versus Javon Evans next week. Possibly.
Well, I was going to say, did he just announce an appearance, or is he actually wrestling on the show? So,
I don't know.
If it's Javon Evans, I mean, look, we already can tell they're very high on him, right? I mean, they put him in there with Randy Orton. So if they're putting him in there with RVD, I mean, again, you could just tell that they see something in him, and I think that could be a damn fine match because RVD can still go.
Yeah,
we saw that on Dynamite, right? Last time we saw him, I think he was teaming with Hook.
Who else did he wrestle? He wrestled Jack Perry?
I believe so. Yeah. And he was doing all of his moves, Rolling Thunder and split-legged moonsault, 5-star. The 5-star now maybe is like 4 1/4, but still doing all of his greatest hits. All that stretching.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Scott Woodford with 20 months. Thank you, brother. Happy Tuesday. My drink tonight is vodka cranberry and a little THC syrup. Enjoy it, brother.
Quite the cocktail.
Tony Khan feared for his life with a $5 super chat. Solid Monster is right. We need individualism. Can you imagine how toned down Will Ospreay would have been in WWE? He would have been another AJ Styles.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of my concerns about the whole ID program thing. It's one thing to say, like, when you come to WWE, you know that there's certain things you're going to have to change about, the way you work or just the things that you do. You got to conform to their system. If that's where you want to work, you got to play by their rules. But until you're actually signed to a contract with them, you should be able to go out there and be your own person, because that's how you get over. You get over by individuality, by being unique, trying to find something about yourself that sets you apart from everybody else. So I would hate to see the independent scene lose that. I would hate to see people be afraid to do that. Oh, they might not like that. That's not their style. You got to be your own person. The minute you lose that, everything just becomes watered down and everything becomes the same, and I don't want to see that.
Absolutely not. Furious Nation with a $4.99 times 2. He says, what's up, guys? Another banger TNT tonight with great discussion. Looking forward to next week for NXT 2300. Show looking stacked, in my opinion. Yes, Nation, I appreciate you, brother. I think I may let you guys know right now there is no TNT next week because of the election. And I might actually cover NXT on Wednesday instead of Dynamite. I don't know yet, but I'm kind of leaning in that direction.
That's what I'm planning on doing.
Okay.
I'm either going to cover them both, or I may choose one, and if I choose one, it'll be the NXT show.
Yeah. Probably. And he also says, JD, in your opinion, what are your thoughts on Nunzio and the full-blooded Italians? And did you read Lashley's take regarding him and Gunther? Yes, it was awful, and I won't repeat it. It's just, Jason said it best today on social media. This is why the talent should really kind of be waned off of booking their own shit. Let's take the power out of the talent's hands most of the time, please.
Yeah, and see, now when you have some of ththese talents, when they get released and then they do interviews and they're like, oh, they never used any of my ideas. Now you see why. Now you see why that might be.
What are my thoughts on the full-blooded Italians? I thought they were great. I mean, I loved everything about the old ECW, man. They were a quality act for the undercard, for sure. Triple M with a $2 super chat. If you need to run a dungeon on Destiny, I will be on tomorrow. I'll be on tomorrow, brother. I will let you know. Definitely. John Wick of Spider Hunters, $10 super chat. So Triple H was impressed with the spider I caught, so he told me to make a star, so I did in response to Jelly Nutella. His name is Messiah Jackson. Messiah said, write JD an apology or I'll just beat. Hee. Okay, Nate.
I don't understand what was just said.
Me neither. I don't know, Nate.
What does any of that mean?
Nate, you've been drinking the THC with my guy Scott Woodford. I don't know.
I think somebody spiked it.
He also said, I hope what Jason said comes true about an Australian performance center. I've trained someone named Alpha Spider. His finish is called the One Webbing Angel. #future.
Okay. So is he talking about an actual, like, a talent, like a person? I didn't know what he was referring to there.
You don't want to know.
Oh, okay. but I bet what I said. Like, I think at some point, that is something that we will see. We will see PC set up in not just other states necessarily, but other parts of the world, and they'll have them staffed, and they'll be able to kind of have their systems, stationed in these different places. And because I think that was always the plan, they just had to put it on hold. But I think they're going to come back around to it.
Phoenix Enterprises with a $9.99 and a new membership. Thank you, brother. Even though my life is falling apart, I don't deserve to be alive. I can do something right and continue to support my heroes. Also, TK, wake up, fix the issues, and fuck that tree. Love y'all. Phoenix.
Well, yeah, I don't like hearing that.
No.
So you gotta get out of that mindset, man. And especially, you got people here to hang out with. Everybody's got I don't know what's going on in your life, but everybody's got issues, brother. You're not the only one. You don't have to feel like you're the only one. And you got people here to hang out with and talk to you. You know that.
Absolutely. Phoenix, Jason and I are live 5 times a week, man. You got us to kind of just rest easy, knowing that you got 2 or 3 hours every night we're live to just kind of get lost in and just put that shit away, man. Everything is going to get better. There's dark days, and they eventually turn to sunny days, man. So don't let anything bother you. Just keep pushing through and be strong. Metalhead Forever with a $4.99. TNT Forever. Ripley got beat up in the NXT parking lot by Raquel and Liv. Bloody mess. I got to watch. That parking lot is the most dangerous place in North America.
Absolutely.
Basic with a $4.99. I'm going to call it Triple H, the Unified Tag Team titles, and the Motor City Machine Guns crown champs. I hope so. I hope so. Hollywood Guy with a 5. This is just a rumor, but I read that they are supposed to kick Carlito out of Judgment Day and give him a solo run and replace him with a new member. I don't want to see Carlito get another singles run after what we got the first time.
I don't think we're getting that Carlito singles run. So I doubt that very seriously. I honestly think the Judgment Day at this point, once this existing story with them, whatever they're doing right now, runs its course, I think it's time for them to just go their separate ways. I think they've done all they can do with this group. I don't even know as far as remaking it and putting new members in there. I mean, you could try, but it just feels like you said so cold right now as compared to how it was before. I think we may just be in a situation where it's run its course and it's just time to move on. Once this plays itself out.
Balor is probably going to have a nice singles run for himself. Dominic will be fine if he stays with Liv. I keep them together. Outside that, I don't know what JD McDonough is going to do. Carlito was a lost cause. Raquel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, again, the heart and soul of the Judgment Day is gone. The heart and soul was Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. Yeah. And Balor too. But it feels like the heart and soul has been ripped out of the group and you can't replicate it.
Who was this? Hassan with a 5. If KO gets Randy on his side after Crown Jewel to go after Cody. Also, RKO wins the tag team titles. KO and Randy on the same side after Crown Jewel? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't see that at all.
No. M. James with a 2. Would Cena winning the Royal Rumble in 25 be a mistake? I don't think Cena wins a match until WrestleMania, like Jason said a few months back, actually, on TNT. I think that's the story to tell first. I know a lot of people are already clamoring, let's do Gunther and Cena at WrestleMania. No, I think it's too soon.
I do it at SummerSlam.
Yeah. Bearded Beast with a 20. Here's my 20. Good show. I'm excited for NXT ECW Arena against AEW. Thank you, brother. We will be watching for sure. Furious Nation with a $4.99. Also, which ECW one night stand do you prefer, 2005 or 2006? And my God, the heat JBL got on both of those shows.
2005 for me. And I really regret not being at that show because I had some friends who were there and the atmosphere just watching on TV was just, especially for the Sandman's entrance, was just incredible. So for me, it's 2000. 2005 One Night Stand is one of my all-time favorite pay-per-views of any kind from any promotion.
Yeah, I love both of those shows, but I have to give the slight edge to 2006. I prefer that one over 2005. Ricky Cornflakes. This is the last one. We'll end with this one. Went to a Halloween party as hologram, and this girl I was talking to called me Rey Mysterio. I was at a loss for words and was fueled with anger and sorrow, so I stormed out of the party into the shadows. Okay.
Hologram is hurt. He's injured right now.
I know. Tony's got a box of tissues next to his PC, man. He's crying right now every night.
Poor Hologram, man. He's in the shadows now. He's been banished to the shadow realm.
Did you at least get the number? I mean, being called Rey Mysterio isn't that big of a deal, man. It's like, oh my God.
Apparently, he was very offended by this. Just ran off into the shadows. I'm trying to picture this, and I'm laughing each time.
JD from NY in the chat says, Christopher, AEW will be on 9-11 in 2 weeks. For what? Why?
In 2 weeks? Or you mean next week? I haven't seen anything about them changing times next week.
Me neither. We'll keep an eye on that. That was the last one. Ricky Cornflakes commented tonight, brother. That was very funny. Thank you guys very much for a great stream. We had upwards of 2,300 people in here. We almost got 1,000 likes. We need another 75 more. Thank you for the great support tonight. Jason, sound us off, man. What do you got?
I just want to make mention here at the end, there were a couple of really serious injuries at the TNA tapings the other day. Someone who we just saw, a week and a half ago, we called his match against Nick Nemeth. Vikingo got hurt.
Crazy.
And he just came back from an injury. It was like, 5 matches in? And we don't know the nature of the injury, but it sounds serious enough, like he may have had surgery or might need surgery. So he's going to be out all over again.
Did you see the clip?
I did, yeah.
It looked bad.
It looked like his ankle bent. So it's either a knee or an ankle, and it didn't look good. So best wishes to him, because that's a tough injury no matter what, but coming back from one and then to have that again is just awful. But Chris Bay of ABC also suffered a very serious injury in a match with the Hardys. No word on exactly what the nature of the injury was exactly, other than that it was a neck injury, and it was serious enough that he had to be rushed into emergency surgery. And now they've started a GoFundMe for him, which, I mean, I hear that and it's just ridiculous because, I'm of the belief, he got hurt in a TNA ring, and I'm kind of shocked that that wouldn't be taken care of. But whatever the details are on that, best wishes to him, because he's going to be going through a tough recovery, it sounds like. And also a shout out to El Fantasmo from New Japan, who posted on social media that he was diagnosed with cancer, which is terrible. But apparently it's being managed, it's being taken care of. Don't have a lot of details beyond that, but obviously very scary. So best wishes to all 3 of them.
Yeah, man, that's some scary stuff. Shout out to everybody in the chat, and thoughts and prayers out to Chris Bay and Vikingo and El Fantasma, man. That's terrible stuff. I know Chris Bay said it's going to be a long journey back, so hopefully, I'm praying that it's not as serious as everybody made it out to be, but it sounded scary. So we wish them nothing but the best in their recovery efforts, and we all love pro wrestling at the end of the day, folks. These men and women do what they got to do for us and entertain us. And the way people act on social media is embarrassing. So make sure you guys send some thoughts, love, and prayer to all the talent out there tonight. And we thank you for a great show, man. Next week, we're taking off. It's election night. We will not be competing with Trump and Kamala. We'll be back the following week for episode 72 right here on Tuesday Night Titans. Catch us either reviewing NXT or AEW next week on our respective channels. Until then, guys, have a good night.